It's a Monday. You know, it's a Monday. I don't really know what this means. That's how I start every stream, so I thought I'd just do it the same way. How's everybody doing? What's up, folks? I am I'm actually a little bit sleepy, but you know what? It's a Monday. See, that's why it works. You could just finish any sentence with that statement. Where's my chat? Hello? Why? Windows. Don't worry. We got the fix. It's called the search button. Punji, I see you dropping those toes subs early in the day. Thank you so much, dude. 19 months on the garden train. Whew. That's a long time, dude. That's a long time. Sometimes you got to talk to somebody after being in the garden for that long. I'll tell you. Thank you, though. I seriously appreciate the support. Appreciate everything you do, man. Hello, folks. What have I missed? What have I missed? Where have I been? Where are we? Why am I small? Come on. I want to be big. Thank you. Hey, guys. So I figured we should have a little bit of a chat. Not like any one type of chat. It's like a multiple subject chat over the next few hours, but a lot's happened in the last couple of weeks, Star Citizen-wise, that I haven't been able to talk about or do like a reaction to or anything like that. Mainly just because so much has been going on. Thanks. Big shout out, by the way, to everybody who has helped support Turkey during this time, whether through us or through other ways. It means a lot to everybody here. It's been a crazy time. So we really appreciate everybody who's reached out. But that kind of stuff has taken a lot of our time. So I kind of wanted to just take this stream to like kick back with you for a casual little day. Go through recent news. We got a Scorpius variant update. We've got 319 features announced. We got an update to the community hub. Some talk about building interiors that I wanted to go over. And then also a Star Citizen Live with the mission features team I think was pretty important that I would love to go over with you all for some context and discussion. So if you're interested in that, for all of my friends who are here live, I encourage you to sit back, grab some popcorn, maybe a drink, a joint, some water, whatever it is. And let's go over Star Citizen stuff. If you're watching this after the fact, I hope you enjoy. We do this live every Monday. We generally have these kind of sit down and talk streams. Some people like them, some people don't. If you don't, come on Fridays, Saturdays, we do gameplay. But on Mondays, we talk about stuff. Development kind of stuff. And we have a lot of fun with it. So join us if you're into that. But my friends, a streamer, I see you with the sub as well. Thank you. Long time no see. How have you been? How's power been out there? You good? You healthy, my friend? How's the fam? Rigaden, good to see you. 07's buddy, Jaybird, I see you. Welcome. Kiwi Rico, Dark Widow, Dan Little. Hello, everybody. Rufus, Anthropophagic, DJ Catmom, Ananance, Matty Galactic, Polite Gaming, Vixen, Shizio. Is that right? Vixenishizio? The problem with this thing not capitalizing letters is I don't know where words start and end. I'm gonna call you Vixen. How's it going? Hunt, how are you doing? It's just gonna make the Scorpius even more overpowered. Talking about the variant. I'm sure that's gonna be a good, fun conversation. I see a lot of happiness in chat about that already. You do hope they give a gold standard pass to the Connie Andromeda and the rest of in the line to fix the snub fighter glitch. I'm excited to see what happens with the Connie in terms of a gold pass, because it's a... I think the Constellation, correct me if I'm wrong, I very well might be. I think the Constellation's got to be the most iconic Star Citizen ship, at least if you're taking in the whole project. Like, from beginning to end, I feel like the Constellation was always the one that I associated specifically with Star Citizen. It's got the name RSI. It's been here for super long. And it was like the first kind of party ship, right? So I'm excited to see what a gold standard pass on that looks like, because it's old right now. It needs it. Scorpius, FOMO money printer, go burr. Honestly, I get you. But, like, who's actually going to buy it? And I mean, because I agree with you. It definitely makes for easy earnings. It's just a very niche ship, you know? But like I said, we'll talk about that in a minute. I almost got Vixen. Almost, I have a trophy that says something like that back at home. Have I hit the thumbs up yet? Oh, that's for everybody else. Thank you, Jaybird. Good morning, Mr. E. Anthony, hello. Marco Holio, welcome. Welcome. It is very popular, yeah. Dark Widow, you're right. Connie was the first multi-crew. Thought so. Yeah, that one and the Starfarer both are pretty hurting for an update. Starfarer specifically. It's kind of like a community joke. When you get home, you're firing up your wife's account on the TV and rewatching in the background. Yo, you gotta love dropped yogurt. Appreciate you. Thank you. Vixenus Ezio. Okay, see, now I see it. Thank you. That helps me. Think they will do a lot of other ships before the Connie. Hey, the later they wait, the better it is, right? It's kind of like a double-edged sword. Swings really hard in one direction, though. It's the waiting period. You sincerely wish all Connie pilots to have strutless gold pass. Let's hold on. So the Constellation. I mean, let's get up in here. Let's get close. The Constellation cockpit view in Star Citizen is historically pretty bad, right? Is it the worst? Is it worse than the Cuddy Black? They kind of fixed the Cuddy Black, but it's been like known that this is not a great view. Here's somebody made an entire a whole display of why. Literally, they're like, why purple? Who is this? I gotta give credit here. Ooh, which one of you made this? Dr. Strut, French T-Girl, a regular on the subreddit. Seen that name for a while. But yeah, the Connie is known for it, right? It is the worst. Okay, so it could definitely use an update. I don't know if it's gonna get strutless, but like something akin to the Mantis would be cool, because the Mantis has a pretty cool view from the cockpit, right? Look at that. There's no screenshots of it because nobody's angry about it. So it's a perfectly fine view. Even the Connie's cockpit view shows up before it does. Yeah, I don't think we're gonna get an easy view from the Mantis, but I'm pretty sure it's pretty clear. Unpopular opinion: struts make for good sun visors. Well, once we get sunglasses tech in the game, you're gonna be regretting that one, right? Who thought it was a good idea? I'm sure they were like, oh, ship balance, and you know, this and this and this and that, and then they made a bunch more ships, and they were like, we can't just throw struts on all of them. I'm actually not sure that's how it went. Probably not how it went, but that's my head lore. That's what I'm going to go with. It's good to go. It's going good. Thanks, we have solar, so we don't struggle too much with the power, but I have a lot of work. I feel you. I feel you there. It is a time of heavy work right now. Jeez. Economies, right? How about those? I don't know. I feel like a joke every time I say like, oh, how about the economy? Because it sounds like, you know, like something you're reading off of a placard. But honestly, how's it going with me? It has been it's been a few weeks for us. Not gonna lie, it's been a few weeks. Hopefully, personally, we have been doing okay. We're healthy. But overall, it's been quite hectic around these parts. By the way, I'm referring to the earthquakes that happened in Turkey. Anybody who is, we were talking last week on the stream about donations coming in and us grabbing supplies and taking them out. We're no longer grabbing supplies, so I want to let anybody know before they start throwing donations if they're still interested. But you can type in !Turkey, and it will bring up a couple of links if you do want to donate money. Those are vetted places. We know the money's actually going to get to go where it needs to go. So if you are still interested in supporting, that would be the way to do it. Yeah, I'm still in Turkey. It's where I live, baby. Is it rare for that area to get earthquakes? it's a weird story. It's Turkey itself is very earthquake prone because of all of the meeting of tectonic plates in this area. Like if you come here, it's I think either the or second most high elevation country in Europe. So a lot of mountain ranges, a lot of earthquakes. We had an earthquake here 2 months ago, and then we were also in an earthquake on the West Coast in 2020. My wife was in an earthquake here in 1999, and there was also a really big one in 2011. So they generally come up. That specific area, they weren't expecting one that big, but it is an area where it can happen, and it's been predicted that it could. Is it rare? Oh, I just read that. Yeah, I live in Turkey. Been living here for a few years, back and forth in the U.S., but generally spend most of our time here. All right. Now that that detail's all done, let's get into the actual stuff going on this week. Let's talk. So, first things first. We got in Star Citizen, if you're not on Twitter, I'm not going to tell you to get on there because, oof. But if you are on Twitter, I would suggest following their page because they've started to do more kind of announcement, sort of interaction stuff on Twitter. Clearly, they want people to get more involved here. So they actually announced a new ship on Twitter. It was one that they've been teasing, but they haven't actually made the official announcement. They just kind of said on this tweet, hey, it's coming in Alpha 318. Here it is. So there's still not really that much info on this other than that it has an EMP device and a quantum jammer. I think the assumption is that this is not an interdiction device. It won't pull people out of quantum travel, but it will stop them from going into it. So this being more of kind of that ship that would police a ship rather than stop them in flight. That being said, we still don't really know what's going on here. Is it going to have a turret and an EMP? Is it just an EMP? Is it going to have lesser weaponry? Is it going to have lesser armor? Is this going to factor into resource management? We don't know how the balancing is going to work with this. But the general reaction from what I've seen so far has been pretty negative. Calls of power creep, as you can see here. Cutlet, your boy, making a comment here. And just in general, people saying, where is this coming from? Why? And I gotta agree. I mean, not fully, but I do have to ask a question like, what the heck? Where is this coming from? I know that they have kind of the plan for it, but I'm interested in knowing if this is driven by anything other than just selling the ship. Like, are they interested in getting people to play this style of gameplay more? And if so, why not just buff the ships that already had it? And correct me if I'm wrong in chat, but I don't think it's so much a problem that they have ships that are doing the same thing as other ships, so much as just it's a weird time for it, right? Because I think we're all expecting there to be multiple ships that do the same thing. Or am I misreading the room? You avoid Twitter. You don't even have an account. You never used Twitter. I didn't use Twitter until I started doing Star Citizen stuff. So it's not that important to me either. I think Discord handles quite a bit of community online now. It does a good job. From a lot of people in the Discord you're in, they are all not really happy with 318. They can't get on to play, and when they can, nothing works. This is the PTU for you. Well, yeah. I mean, are they not happy with 318, or are they not happy with, like, the PTU being not working well? You think they did say no turret? Okay. It's not power creep, it's power sprint. Turret is removed, but unknown if the co-pilot seat is removed as well. Couldn't make much sense to have it, though. Right, this could be a one-seater. That would be an interesting take. If the EMP and the ship both had to be controlled by one pilot, that would not make it as easy to use. But this seems like the kind of ship where you're snaring something, or not snaring, but displacing something while dogfighting. How much can you actively go back and forth doing that? Bounty hunting V2 is around the corner, and we have very few bounty hunting ships. That's actually a good point, Will.i.am. bounty hunting V2 is around the corner and will probably lead to a lot more of us interdicting NPCs, because there will be more NPC criminals. But I still feel like you can't make the argument that it wasn't just a better idea to improve the current ships that had this functionality. The PTU, okay, they don't like the PTU being very unstable. I see. Stealth and radar doesn't work in my mind. Fix the ships you already have. Scorpius is broken right now, as is. This variant would be even more broken. Now, there's a good point. If a ship is broken, should you avoid bringing in its variant? I think it goes back to the whole, like, how CIG's got to stay consistent on the idea that they want to bring stuff into the alpha with more polish for the kind of active game aspect of it, but they also are literally just throwing stuff in because they need to keep testing it. So, like, they've got to be consistent how they're balancing it. Do you feel like they are kind of forgetting about ship balance when it comes to that philosophy? Because at which point should you say they can throw their variant into the game even though the original is still broken? Lesai, strange for RSI to make this in the Mantis. Why do you say that? Why is the Scorpius considered broken? I don't actually know. I haven't tested it. DPS is unknown as far as I know. I think this is the only official info we have right here is this tweet. What we could do is go to Reddit real quick and see if anybody has if anybody has said anything else about it on here. Usually there's like a screenshot or something. Yeah, so this is about how this was kind of hinted at back in IAE, an EMP equipped Scorpius, but I don't see anything else. It looks like. Ethnification, how you doing? Awaskao, thank you so much for the Prime sub. I really appreciate it. Thanks for the support this month, buddy. I hope you have a good one. Hope you're enjoying this stream. Cable, you just need the servers to be stable. Are you talking live or PTU? What are you playing on lately? Yeah, I don't see anything else on here about the Scorpius, to be honest. So, we're going to move on from this. But that's a new ship. Should be coming in 3.18. I don't think it's any of the ships that we've been seeing in the monthly report, though, so don't worry. Plenty of stuff still coming there. Scorpius considered broken because it can shoot down an arrow or other light fighter. Huh. As in heavy fighters shouldn't be able to shoot down light fighters? Or is it just too easy to do so? Cutlass Blues only advances as having 6 prison pods, but that's a pretty good one. That's for a ship the size of the Cuddy, being able to hold 6 people is gonna. I mean, you can't do that with the what's it called? The Argo MPUV personnel, because that's probably what you would normally use for transporting people in this game. They have like the cell in there, but I think the Cuddy Blue's gonna have a pretty good spot with six pods like that. Because does the Avenger also have 6 pods? Scorp will need another ship from the Cuddy Blue. Right, the Raven only has an EMP. And then the other alternative would be the Mantis, which isn't really going to be a fighter. That's also going to need another pilot. So both the Mantis and the Scorpius will probably need extra ships with them. Unless you're just going in for the kill. In which case, you don't need another seat. Scorpius can annihilate any combat ship currently in game. I see. So it's overpowered. Will taking away the turret make that better? You're okay with this variant and hope it heralds more variants of existing ships. I like the idea of variants. as long as they have a reason to be there. Obviously. I mean, I don't think that's a hot take. If you can shoot down a light fighter easily, then typically CIG nerfs it. Considering this hasn't been done yet, it's broken. I see. Okay. So the other news that came out, what is this? This is probably last couple days. They've updated the community hub. So I figured I'd let people know. If you haven't seen it before, this is an easy way to find Star Citizen content. They're doing some interesting stuff with it, so we know that they like their events, whether they be screenshot events or video events or just like doing something in game. They now have the ability to take over the front of the community hub, so it still doesn't solve the problem I think they have, which is you have to go out of the game to do in-game stuff. I think needing to go to the website to do this stuff is still a negative in the experience, but it at least gives it a landing page. They also are just letting you look through all of the content that has to do with that event and see events coming up. So not a huge update, just some calendar stuff it seems. But if you want to know where to go to get only Star Citizen content, if that's all you want, Community Hub is there. It's on the main website. It's pretty easy to find. They essentially let us change one thing on WordPress. Yeah, but at least it's there. It's, let's call it an alpha of the Community Hub. You love the Scorpius and the way it flies, and the view is amazing. Just started flying one. I do really like the ship itself. Feels a bit big for me, though, as a fighter. Live servers. Hopped on the PTU when it was available for a week, then went back. Just hoping they figured out the issue to resolve it. I like the PTU more than the live servers lately. Okay. Next up. What's next? Roadmap Roundup, my friends. I know most of you have probably already gone over this. I'm hoping I can add a little extra spiciness to it. But this is basically, we've been waiting 2 months for this now. It's the first time ever, as far as I remember, ever since we got 3.0, which is back in 2018, when they started the 4 quarters update kind of thing. We've never gone into a year and not known something about the next year, but this was the first time. So this was kind of a big deal roadmap roundup. I'm just going to skip right into it, and we will listen to the Alpha 319 stuff announced. So the upcoming release of Alpha 3.18 brings important advancements to the technology behind Star Citizen. The highlight of this update is persistent entity streaming, which represents a monumental effort from our engineering teams. We are eager to share this update with more players soon and are thrilled about the improvements it will bring. To ensure server and client stability in Alpha 3.18, both before and after launch, our team has decided to extend the 3.18 branch for an extra patch cycle. So starting off right there, they are saying that it's going to be for an extra patch cycle. And after this, they're going to then put a date on the following patch. So right there, they're locking themselves into a timeline. And I don't know if that's the best idea. I guess they must be pretty confident about 3.18 going live soon, but we've seen how that can happen. So what they're saying here is they want to do 3.18 as the Q1 patch. I'm assuming probably March goes live, early March. 2 months after that, right before Invictus Week, they'll be dropping 3.19. So in fact, I'll let them say it. I'm sorry, guys. I'm taking away their fire. As a result, the next update following the release of Alpha 3.18 will come before Invictus launch week and will feature a variety of new and exciting content. Read exciting. You can read about below. Although this update will be designated Alpha 3.19, it will be built on the Alpha 3.18 code base. So that kind of clarifies things. They're doing the whole 3.15 to 3.16, or is it 3.14 to 3.15? One of those 3.17 to 3.17.2 kind of things. And This is it's kind of funny. I talk about this on the podcast if you haven't seen it. You can see how clearly they're reacting to the community with this change. I mean, everybody's pointed it out. This is 3.18 likely 0.2. But they're not going to call it that now because they get their head chopped off. And it's kind of like I feel like this reminds me of the roadmap update from last year. So they try to do the whole open development. We're just going to say everything that might be coming in the next year. And, you know, it could shift. We might be wrong, but we're going to put it out there. That's what our projection is. Their projections are often wrong when they're very far out. Kind of you're going to lose either way because you can't predict that kind of stuff in this environment that far out. But you still also told everybody you would. So they had to make the hard move of shortening that timeline and saying, okay, we're only going to show a couple quarters out. That was a crappy thing because we understood how things were working and they had to change things because they could not fix that. Ultimately, in the long run, it was better, though. I feel like this is similar. They always try to do the whole, oh, this is a point patch because it's not actually new code. It's just us throwing a lot of features on old code, so we're calling it a new kind of half update. And then they got burned for it because they named themselves into a corner, and then last year looked really bad because even though they put in a bunch of features, it looked like they only put in one update. So this year, now they're once again making a change because they painted themselves into a corner, and in the long run, it'll probably help. And in the short run, it pisses people off. And it's like, I think it's pretty unique to development that has so many people watching it. When Lano went over the new way of injecting new stuff, it makes for rockier play all around, but also faster development. Was he saying that was a new way of doing it? We need bigger oh, you guys are talking about the Scorp still. Well, I guess I'm just in my own corner. Yeah, I don't see a problem with this. I think the most important thing this tells me is that 320 isn't going to be an August patch. So I think what they wanted to do was 318 at the beginning of the year, 319 in March, and then 320 in August as the big update. And then basically just stretch 320 out the rest of the year for 4.0 to hit Evocati late in the year. But they got delayed, and I think this is going to push 320 probably to October-ish and make that a very big patch. Bounty Hunting V2, Cargo Refactor, Hull C, Freight Elevators, mining missions, Vehicle Tractor Beams. Like, there could be an absolutely enormous amount of features in 320. And I think that's because most of it's not going to come in 319. So it's interesting. But let's read what kind of stuff is actually planned so far to be coming in here. Did this whole chart that went over how 317 they started just sticking things in live and not waiting for another patch, skipping an overall testing step they used to do. Oh, I thought he was just reminding people how they did this stuff, how it used to be. I haven't watched the whole thing yet, so I'll have to look into it, but I am going to try and do a video on that for supporters. 320, you heard of no 320? There's going to be a 320. They have to, considering the features they want to put into the game this year and the fact that 4.0 is probably not going to make it this year. They're going to need another update. At least 2 more years. From when, Jack? It's clear that 319 is a 318.1 from what they're saying, and an attempt to not have a repeat of 2022 with 5-point patches. But that's the point. Yeah, that's the whole point. It's all in the name, and the only reason this is a conversation is because of how much people lost their minds last year over 3.17.2 or 3 or whatever. Because we've done this before. We've done 3 point so-and-so before, and they've done the whole, we're going to rename this to so-and-so because it's on the same code base as this. It's never been a problem. But now it is because of what happened last year. And it's just like the roadmap stuff. I honestly, you know, maybe it's partially people like me's fault for driving so much emphasis to patch numbers in videos and stuff. But the amount that people care about the actual number of a patch is astounding to me. And I wonder if people care about the version of OBS or Google Chrome or any other software as opposed to just the features being added. I don't know. Why don't we look at features being added? So in this new patch, whatever you want to call it, that's coming Q2, I guess, of 2023, they're doing so far Lorville Cityscape rework, the new player experience, salvage missions, and a new PvP mission. When is the next org stream? Probably on Saturday, I think. So the first thing that jumps out to me is that the Lorville Cityscape is definitely not going to be the actual landing zone being remade. The way that they're talking about it, the fact that they haven't shown us anything, any ground floor level changes walking around on the ground, anything like that, tells me that I don't think anything but the actual trains are going to change. But maybe they're saving it as a surprise. But they keep talking about the Lorville skyline and the cityscape and the buildings and the scale, but not really about any added locations or the neighborhoods that they had mentioned or anything like that. So I'm kind of setting my expectations for the Lorville cityscape stuff to be more of a not as big a deal as I was hoping. Problem is CIG needs to stop putting dates on things. See, now that I agree with. Don't put dates on things. Although, like, definitely the patches should still be date driven. They should still be hitting 4 patches a year, in my opinion. And when I say patches, I mean like feature additions, not tune-up patches. 319, this from this, I would consider 319 a patch if it had a couple more ships and maybe honestly, yeah, I think like a couple ships and another feature addition, and I would consider that a 319 patch, like a 1 out of 4 patch for the year. But I do think that the dates, I'm in agreement with you, are the worst part. Just don't put dates on things. It never leads to good things. In the ISC, they showed just the cityscape and building exteriors. They said they were starting the new building interiors this quarter, so that could come later. So what I'm more concerned with is, are they going to update the quality of Lorville on the ground to be more like Orison or New Babbage? They have more areas that you can tell missions are going to be plugged in and stuff like that. Are they planning on just forgetting about that and focusing entirely on building interiors? I got questions there. Basically, CIG don't tell us it's ready, then the player base finds out it's far from ready. And they did a good job with that with the roadmap change last year. That was definitely a less dates being told sort of change, which was helpful. Salvage missions is not a feature, salvage is a feature. When I say feature, I mean anything that is being implemented into the game. So like AI, a gun is a feature when I'm talking about the roadmap and stuff. The planet is a feature. Technically, these would be considered mission features. But regardless, I think the more important thing than just the features is the missions. Because if the mission's there, it forces people to try using the feature. What I'm wondering is, are they going to have the Vulture available for purchasing game for $3.19? In their defense, they got you a new feature with immediate gameplay. What is that referring to, Mr. E? Oh, salvage. Maybe CIG should build one game at a time until they at least have one ready to play the game. That would be the ideal situation. Unfortunately, I think if they did that, they'd go out of business. If CIG stops putting dates on things, they will have no deadlines and we won't see progress for a long time. I mean, they could put their own dates on stuff. I think most people mean just not so much publicly. I think this is a solid way to communicate it. Actually, let me double check. No, it is not, because they said before Invictus launch week. Let me think. I think what they did in the letter in January was decent. The way they talked about features that they plan to have this year. No specifics. I'm okay with that, although it will then not be great if they don't come this year. It's freaking hard to figure out like where to draw that line. Wasn't there this whole controversy over the roadmap change last year? There was. It's like once a quarter. Once a month, maybe. We have our cycles, us and CIG. Gumbo! What's up? How you doing, friend? 07's buddy. Once a quarter is being kind. Why do I think if they worked on one game at a time they would go bankrupt? Because I think they've painted themselves into a corner where they need more time to make Star Citizen work, but they also are running out of time to do something to prove what they've done. And I think if they weren't to release Squadron 42, Star Citizen probably wouldn't get enough funding to keep going past, at least in the next like 3-4 years, because the game's lagging. I mean, Star Citizen's lagging behind Squadron. And I think they're, with all their growth, hiring new employees in the hundreds, getting new buildings in multiple countries, all this expansion they're doing, new studio at Turbulent, I think they're expecting a pretty big influx of cash in the next couple of years to cover that. And if Squadron didn't materialize, I think that would leave them in a bad spot. And if Star Citizen didn't happen, I don't think Squadron would really make the company last that long. So I think they kind of need both to survive, but I am not a business person. I'm just I'm literally talking out of my ass right now. Doing well, Gumbo. Good to hear. Getting some gameplay footage recorded for a new SC project. That's always a good time. They can't develop for infinity without selling stuff. There is no publisher behind them that fills their pockets in the meantime. Yeah, just a couple investors and us. Okay, what's next? New player experience. An initiative for improving the initial, read first 30 minutes, gameplay experience, which will help players understand the context of the world and introduce them to some of Star Citizen's basic features. This update focuses on the experience in Area 18 and Bajini Point. This is an important one because the new player experience is awful in Star Citizen. I don't think this is really going to solve all of our problems because it's just the first 30 minutes. And for those of you who have played Star Citizen, not much happens in the first 30 minutes. But it should help get players to know things like use F to interact with stuff. Click on doors and items to pick them up and hold them. Hold F and right click to bring up your little interaction wheel. This is how you find your way around cities. Go to stores to get armor and weapons and stuff. Fly to a space station. Reset your regeneration point. Like, these aren't things that I think we as veterans think of as the tutorial for Star Citizen. But they're like the absolute ground floor basics. I mean, when you get into a new game, the first thing you do is try to interact with something. And no game is doing it the same way. Okay, some games are doing it the same way, but like, if a game does it a different way, it has to tell you that. I think that's pretty important. This is a good one. Takes away a lot of work off of the players. It helps to make the game feel a little bit more inviting to players. And it also will probably give them some feedback on how people respond to this kind of stuff. What I'm hoping, though, is that this is not just tips and hints that pop up. I don't think it is. I think this should include some sort of interaction. Hopefully some kind of overlays that can give information. But I kind of expected this to be coming at the same time as the visor rework or the first person scanning rework, so that it could tie into that. So I'm not sure what they're going to do here, but we'll have to see. I'm sure they'll have something for us to show in the next couple of months as they continue to try and stretch ISC content until 3.18 is out. The learning curve for SC makes Squadron 42 a lengthy tutorial. It's going to be good for learning how to fight. That's going to be nice, because I can't fight in this game. I'm going to need a lot of NPCs to warm me up. What was that, Reese? Am I saying I'm a butt face? Indeed. A butt face. Couldn't 4.0 and the changes it brings also bring in an influx of new money like Squadron 42 could? I don't think it would make as big a splash as Squadron being a full game. I think 4.0 will give them a lot of media coverage, but I don't think it's going to be a major... I guess it's hard to kind of quantify how it's going to impact. I think it'll bring a lot more attention to the game, but I still don't think it's going to be the big moment for it, really. You'd like if it was a physical piece of gear, like a special helmet with an extra AR overlay for noobs. Or like a plug-in that you could put on to your helmet or something. Yeah. Definitely something that involves AR overlays. That, I think, is the key. Like, we need to be able to highlight things and know that it is interactable. Squadron 42 might benefit from at least 2-player co-op. Oh, gosh, co-op in that game would be so cool. You watched a video about Cappadocia, Turkey, and the underground tunnels. Quite interesting. Turkey has some incredible locations to visit. Is it true when you started to play Star Citizen, it was difficult to get oriented? Oh, it is true. But then you tried Elite Dangerous, and you can finally say that SC is way more easier to play. Easier to play and get oriented than Elite Dangerous. I haven't heard of that one. And let's not forget more fun. Subjective. I'll give them that. Subjective, but I enjoy Star Citizen more. Okay. What's coming after the new player experience? Now we're getting into probably the more interesting parts of this update so far, the new missions. With more civilian access to salvage ships, contract brokers are offering salvage jobs for derelicts around Lagrange points around Stanton. Merlin Elf, thank you for the sub. 19 months. Appreciate you. These brokers charge a fee for their services, so this will require some buy-in. But the contractors are free to keep any salvage material for sale. So, I mean, can I speak to all my miners in chat? And oh my gosh. I mean like mining ore. Miners, not children. It's such a weird sentence. I want to speak out to all my ore miners out there in Star Citizen and just apologize from the depths of my heart. You've been waiting for missions for like 5 years. 5 years you've been waiting for mining missions. And salvage comes in here. Swoop. Takes a spot. We have not had any industrial missions in this game for the longest time. Like, all right, here's my take on missions. Just like with Xenothreat, we need a reason to do something in Star Citizen because there's nothing else telling you to do it. Like, if you went into Destiny 2 and you were only shooting your gun at some point you would come to a situation where you'd have to like use magic or use your special ability or something, and the game would inform you that that's needed. But when you're in Star Citizen, you're going around and picking up little courier Tommy. You're picking up little courier boxes and taking them to places. There's no one there to tell you, hey, pick up a tractor beam. It makes it a lot easier. And then Xenothreat came around. And suddenly the tractor beam and the multi-tool was super useful. And like, obviously salvage is a big feature, so it's not the same with that. But I do kind of feel like the missions can do the same thing when it comes to salvage and bounty hunting and mining and stuff. It like gives new players a super easy way to get into the game and be like, I want to do something utility. I don't want to look up 50 minutes of YouTube videos and join an org to figure out how to do it. I just want a mission that makes me go and do it. So I think this is a bigger deal than it might seem. I think the missions are going to make the game feel a lot better, especially when they start to fill them out and they work consistently. Friendship ended with mining, which is the new best friend. I mean, it was bound to happen, right? Closest thing is getting credit in prison. And the only way to get paid for your good doings is go to prison for it. That makes sense. You sure the mining missions will make it into 319? Yeah, they might. It's a good call, Gumbo. I was thinking that because of the monthly report, they kind of didn't describe them that clearly. Maybe they were a little bit behind salvage. So, they might only be a month or two behind. Maybe they'll still make it in 319. Don't pour one out just yet. There are lots of players that only have PU package and don't care for Squadron 42 whatsoever. Not everyone has it anymore. PU is a standalone product. Any word on what tiers server meshing will go through? Probably like 3. It seems like. Tier 0, static server meshing. Tier 1, dynamic server meshing. Tier 2, what do they call it? Zoned server meshing or something like that? Where like they could start to apply dynamic servers to separate ships and space stations and stuff. Healing attachment on the multi-tool hasn't gained any functionality yet. So these salvage contracts, they didn't really detail them too much here, but the way that they're going to work is you have 3 different types. You have one that is lawful. You go to a space station, you sign in. You don't actually have to go there physically, but just for the sake of lore, you sign in to the job board. Somebody says, you sign into your own personal section on the job board. Somebody says, hey, I've got a salvage job for you. You want it? It's towed out back. Pay this much. You can have at it. Take whatever you have. That's how you get the first type of mission. That's lawful. Second one, same thing happens, but instead of you going to the station to get that call, you go to a pirate or some kind of shady organization and they say, hey, we just scanned up a wreck being towed in. It's going to be here for this long. Probably won't have anybody there for 10 minutes. Go get as much as you can before they show up and then get out of there. Second type of mission. And then the third type of mission is sort of a general, it gets posted to the job board. Anybody can see it. It's open game. Hey, there's a big wreck out there. We have the locations. You guys go get it. You guys can team up or battle over it, whatever you want. So 3 clearly different types of missions for salvage. This is going to be the same thing for mining, but I think it's a really interesting way of doing it. I'm super pumped to see how those missions play out differently. If CIG were to make a new racing ship, what manufacturer would you like to see make it? Honestly, the Astropub has been getting me excited for a RSI-made race ship, which could be one of the ones coming through on the monthly report. So I'm going to go with RSI. Dejinri, thank you so much for the Prime sub, by the way. Appreciate your support. Hope you're enjoying the stream. Let's see. Grumpy Eye and others have cited info. SE was always the main game. It's very nebulous, but they were both pretty much the same level of focus in the beginning. I mean, it's the discrepancy, in my opinion, is days. And considering we're at 10 years now, I don't think it's really important whether or not Squadron or Star Citizen are more important or the other. I think it's reasonable to just say both of them have been around the entire time. Both have been priorities. Both depend on each other. And unfortunately, they care more about Squadron. You vote Crusader for a race ship? That would be cool. Argo would be dope. Maybe Kruger. Kruger could probably come up with something interesting. Basically a racing flying gun. But yeah, I'd like Crusader too. RSI or Crusader would be sick. Or maybe a Vandal ship. Let's see what they do. The last part that we have so far are new missions. Now, these are new missions placed on the Reclaimer Derelict that we got last year. This is a big part of... I'll actually pull up some footage of that for folks who maybe don't know it. So this is Ghost Hollow. This is where these new missions will be taking place. It is a crashed Reclaimer on Microtech. It will, of course, be able to be placed on other planets. They've tried to build them modular so that they can be added in different places. But as you can see, there are various areas for FPS combat and discovery and exploration and honestly some ship combat as well. So this is planned to be a location for a new type of mission, which most people have been saying sounds a lot like what they're doing with Security Post Korea, which also sounds a lot like what they do with Jumptown. And for those who don't know about Jumptown, basically it creates kind of a dynamic event, an actual dynamic event that spawns when a player does something. The game responds, sends out a mission to get other players to come in and fight them in some way. So this one makes use of the comm array as well as the AI nav mesh and creates PvP encounters where players will need to fight for control over terminals for a chance at a big credit payout. So the first thing that pops out to me is that they're basically saying this is going to be a PvPvE event. And I'm thinking what maybe will happen is you assault Ghost Hollow. Ghost Hollow calls for reinforcements. Maybe unlawful players can join in to defend Ghost Hollow. I'm not sure. But I also am wondering if NPCs will be shipped in via dropship during the event. And I'm seeing Fred Sanford became a supporter on YouTube and gifted out 5 YouTube memberships. Dude, thank you so much. That means a freaking ton. That helps us a lot and also gets a lot of people access to the exclusive videos that come out monthly. Thank you so much, Fred. We appreciate it. But yeah, this is going to be an interesting kind of mission. I've not heard them describe a mission like this before, using AI and PvP mechanics in a kind of a closed off area that's like mission oriented and not dynamic event oriented. So I hope to hear more about this in the coming months, but it sounds cool. We're actually going to watch the Star Citizen live with the mission team in a little bit here. So we'll get some more of the feedback on this maybe from them in that. I haven't watched it all the way through. I don't know about you guys. Kruger does have the Archimedes, but the Archimedes isn't necessarily a race ship. Hate that everything has to have weapons on it. Yo, I don't even mind that everything has weapons on it, but like the advertisements that they do with these ships that have no business getting into a dogfight is very funny. Like you can look up almost any ship in this game. Let's say the Star Citizen Argo Mole. Like nobody's trying to fight an Argo Mole, but if you go through the promotional pictures, I'm sure at some point you'll find somewhere that it's shooting at somebody. Definitely using its mining lasers here. Come on, Mole. Where are you? Hold on. It's not a huge deal. I just like to give them crap for it because every single ship that comes out, no matter what it is, has like some kind of a picture. Here we go. Or is that the raft? This is the raft, I think. Yeah. Every ship that comes out has some kind of picture where it's like getting into a dogfight. And you're like, why? Why are you doing that, ship? What's going on with my chat? It's not updating. Oh, that's annoying. I'm missing everybody's messages. Hold on a second. Oh, the Archimedes is a racing ship. Okay, well, I didn't know that. That explains why... Oh my gosh! Leave me alone! Yeah, so the raft is a good enough example of this phenomenon. But, like, it's like, why is the raft doing this? All their promo pics are explosions. They're very combat focused. I'm excited to see Star Citizen become less combat focused as we get more of these features coming on, because the pew pews are many. They're many. Not that I have anything against pew pews, you know? Pew away if you want a pew. But my pew is not your pew, and sometimes you got to pew in a different pew place, you know? So, give me other things besides pew pews. Grumpy Eye! What's up? What's up, man? Can you ask where is that desktop background from? This is from my graphics folk. He does the graphical art in videos and some of the announcement and social media stuff we do right now. He also does some great art on like Star Citizen kind of stuff. You can actually find him on Twitter under the name bmongol. I actually don't know another good way to find him. He's on our Discord server. But he hands this stuff out to the community. If you find his Twitter, he's got like 40 of them, different ships from Star Citizen, different planets, different colors, different designs. They're pretty cool. Some are vertical, some are horizontal. So, you know, if you have that cool phone background. Abduwak, good to see you, my man. How are you? How are you and the fam? How's the kid? Am I good now, Grumpy? We're doing okay. We're making things move, man. It's gonna be rough here for a while, I think. You want more complex investigation missions. You excited for the stuff they're talking about, Gumbo? You think it'll go far enough? B-Mongol's one of the 07s. Is he? If you used 42 as a stepping stone into the PU, then we would have better citizens in game, so peeps will be less of noobs knowing more about the lore and things to live good in the verse. Agreed. I just think a lot of people probably won't be interested in Squadron. A lot of people come for the MMO aspect. All right, let's see real quick if the devs have been answering any interesting questions, and then we're going to move on to look into building interiors coming in the next couple of years. You need more still, Gumbo? I feel it. Let's see. Weapons and component variety. Talking about, I guess, balance. PES is the new version of iCache, or is Entity Graph the new version of iCache? That's an interesting one, actually. I'm pretty sure we kind of know the answer to this, but let's see what he has to say. Clive has his hands in the iCache pudding. So this question is asking, how exactly is a statement to be understood? What exactly is described here as the new version of iCache? Is it the Entity Graph or persistent entity streaming? Clive Johnson answers, iCache is a service that provides distributed in-memory caching of previously queried and updated data stored in a SQL database. By having the game talk to iCache instead of directly to the database, a lot of queries are avoided, reducing load on the database, helping it scale to a large number of clients, basically saying, hey, go here to figure out what's in the box, not to me. Don't come here. The Entity Graph is a service that provides translation from our game-specific query language into the query operations of the underlying database and translates the results back into a form the game can easily understand. Entity Graph also provides extra reliability and scalability guarantees that iCache doesn't. What Entity Graph doesn't do is any form of caching. However, it talks to a NoSQL database that performs its own distributed in-memory caching. That's convenient. Not only that, but the database is specifically and optimized for graph data, which is a much better fit for the type of queries we need to do. So to answer your question, Entity Graph and its NoSQL database are the replacement for iCache. Entity Graph's improved performance and scalability are what has enabled full persistence as well as the extended functionality for inventories. So there you have it. I think this had been kind of gone over. Unobtainium is actually the same person who makes the... Oh, do I have this bookmarked here? The unofficial road to server meshing. Hold on a second. If you haven't seen this... he made this whole interactive layout that kind of shows from his point of view, from his understanding, how CIG has moved Star Citizen from basic technology all the way up to where we're headed now with static server meshing, hopefully within the next year. This is a very good and well thought out presentation. It's got a ton of resources and explanations. I'll go ahead and link it in chat for anybody who wants to see it, but that's who this is. So he kind of knows what he's talking about from what I've seen. I'm actually hoping to get him on the podcast at some point, but it's good to get an answer on this. All right, let's see if there's anything else interesting on the dev tracker. Weapon and component variety. Why do we have made up holidays? Why wouldn't we have made up holidays? Let's see. Ultra wide resolution. Let's look at the weapon and component variety thing real quick. I wouldn't mind hearing about that. Basically, oh, we know Hiroshi. Group of weapons and shields are largely homogenized in what was explained at the time as a temporary simplification exercise. It's been like this for some time now, and I'm unaware of any work being undertaken to move us out of this paradigm. Am I missing something from the roadmap, or are CIG happy with what we currently have? Had things changed? Answer being, weapon balancing and diversification is currently happening in Squadron 42. The weapons that are being used for Squadron 42 get the treatment first. Others will follow. I can't tell, though, when the work will hit the PU. Same answer. This is gonna build so much resentment for the game with so much resentment for Squadron 42. How often that answer comes up. This looks like it's not it doesn't really become a efficient conversation. So why don't we go ahead and jump on to building interiors. All holidays are made up. Hey, you take that back, Rigaden. Ain't nobody gonna tell me that Donut Day was made up. It's existed since the beginning of time itself. The James Webb Space Telescope is still looking for the origin of Donut Day. Don't lie to me, all right? Make it where they have to complete. Whoa, hey, monitor. Okay, this isn't happening for any of you. My monitor just turned off. And it's not coming back. Are you serious? What are you... Come on. Who did I harm to get so much computer problems? I guess I'm just gonna have to unplug it and plug it back in. I mean, I could just use the stream. I could watch the stream and use this as a way to keep... So that works. Loose power cord? No, the power's on. It keeps telling me no display. I'm going to see if HDMI popped up. Oh, HDMI is in there solid. Oh, I just messed everything up. Ah, that's why you don't unplug your monitor in the middle of a stream. And now what's going on? Oh, man. Do I love it or do I love it? This is, makes my life go around. Hold on, folks. Let me see if I can get this to be the right input. Come on. God, don't do this to me. Professional streamer, folks. Yeah, there should be no problem here. If I do this, and then throw this back. There we go. Okay. This stuff leaves me speechless, to be honest. The way that you have to deal with this stuff. Okay. Yeah, maybe it was CIG. I don't know. Blow on it somewhere. Best. The best tech support in chat. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Yeah, it was probably because I mentioned Donut. Mongo doesn't have a download link to the wallpapers anymore. I'd shoot him a message. Just ping him on the Discord server. He'll drop a link for you, I think. What's up, Skippy? Stop stream and restart. Oh, Kos. Dangerous. Alright, Ninetail, I promise we don't always have tech problems. No, actually, we do always have tech problems, but we always get through them. Thanks for joining me today. What constitutes a better citizen? Picking up your medical gowns and water bottles after you're done with them. You think Squadron 42 will blow our minds? It's going to be a great launching point into the PU. I hope it blows our minds. And I hope in a positive sense. All right, let's listen to the talk about building interiors. I wanna preamble this. I am of the thought that when landing zones changed, when was that? 2015? When they changed the plan for planets and landing zones became much more detailed, we would generally have a city that was kind of explorable, but not super explorable. So like twice the size of what we have right now. If you took, say, like Orison, I think is a good example of kind of what I expected. Maybe one more platform or two, but in terms of city size, I expected there to be, you know, a decent amount of stuff, but generally just a hub for that planet. I don't know if Star Citizen, if their plan was ever to create sprawling cities that would have a, like, let's say 50+% of buildings to be explorable. I don't think they ever exclusively mentioned that. They just mentioned having some buildings. But this does seem to me like a scaling up of the idea of what buildings were meant to be in the game. So I do think this, I'm going to wait to, I don't know. I can't say what I feel about the feature right now because like from what they've shown us, it all looks great. But it could always scale back down, I guess. So I would hold our expectations. I'm excited for it. I think this is really cool stuff. I think this is going to be a good way for them to finally expand the city gameplay in ways that I was kind of wondering how they would ever do. This makes more sense than what I was thinking. So I'm excited for it. I'm wary. Anyways, let's jump in and see.
This week, it's another Journey to 4.0 special, where we jump farther ahead and take a look at work scheduled to make its Persistent Universe debut in the upcoming 4.x branch of release. And this week, we're proud to bring Star Citizen art director Ian Leyland back to share with us a first look inside the buildings of Star Citizen's landing zones.
So building interiors is something we've always wanted to do.
Hey, don't insult Jared's style. Space Dad.
You know, because of you know, we've had cities in the game for a while. We have many cities. We have many buildings. Therefore, we could have many.
I saw a floating
We've had
antenna.
cities in the game for a while. We have
Floating antenna.
many cities. We have many buildings. Therefore, we could have
Casual
many
Friday.
interiors. It's a perfect opportunity to put in a lot of play space. Now, with the players flying around these buildings, they've been largely urban landscapes, fairly uninteractable. You know, we've done a few landing pads to get the players in and out there, but really the real good stuff was on the inside. So up until now, we've been on the outside wondering about the inside, and today we're going to talk about the inside, looking outside.
Haha! Jared don't need no fashion. Dude, he's got the freaking beard for it.
All right, so with building interiors, the way in which we approach the
I watched this episode. I just wanted to go over it again. When I do the episode watch throughs on my Space Tomato 2 page, I try to get through it pretty quickly. I have more to say though, so I wanted to watch through this again and actually discuss with you guys.
concept development. Now, this was just a pure blue sky ideation phase, and the idea was to create inspirational material to use that as a content to inspire conversations, to find out what do we want to do for the game, what is cool for the game, and use that as the initial springboard for the conversation. So what we'll be looking through here is a presentation of blue sky ideation, primarily used as a springboard to start conversations with Chris, with the design director, and the game director, to understand what do we want to put in the game, what could be cool for the game, and we use that as that initial inspiration point.
Real quick, I'm sorry to do this to you all. It's very rude of me, but I'm going to look at the progress tracker real quick. I just want to see what they have on here for building interiors. Because from what he's saying, it sounds like they're in the conceptual phase. And if we're looking at building interiors on here, I mean, this has been the listed work on this is back to 2021. So this is what I'm mainly curious about. Locations concept art was working on it, but the sandbox team got involved in 2021 as far as this is telling us. So I'd be much more curious to know when was this updated? I almost want to say it doesn't make sense. We don't have a date for when this is updated. Right. So at the end of the video, they talk about how it's gone into production, or it's going into production. But I want to know what all this was then. Because this is 2 years. This is Q2 of 2021. Montreal Sandbox team. Scheduled work starting. Straight through 2022. Continuing on until the end of Q2 2023. So, you know, I'm not throwing accusations. I just want to know what that is and how that works into them doing blue sky ideation right now when we're kind of on the outer segment of the work. Probably other types of buildings under the same tracker. I don't know. It's just the building interior is deliverable. I think the difference these days is they used to say development in the future. Now they're saying development starting now. Yeah, they're getting a lot better at only telling us about. They could have done a spot on this last year in the middle of this when it was nowhere near production. But I'm just wondering where it was. Regardless, it's not a huge deal. But when I'm telling people about the progress tracker or making a video and informing people of how they should pay attention to the game, I'd like to have the confidence in the progress tracker to talk about it, you know? I want to be able to tell people, hey, if you are interested in what I'm saying, go to the progress tracker, check out more of it to see what else they're talking about the game. But if I can't explain this kind of stuff, I don't feel right suggesting that, you know? So I hope we can get some more insight into it. anyways, though. Let's go back to building interiors.
So when talking about building interiors, how could we start to break that down? So right off the bat on the top, it's the rooftop spaces. So these would be the primary access points for the player.
Maybe siege.
Then just below that, the maintenance spaces, these could be industrial or technical. Also, we can have residential. So residential could be entire building blocks, so it could be a proportion. Then after that, we've got commercial. So these could be shopping, it could be offices, it could be social. And then at the bottom, obviously, we've got lobbies. Now, these also could be access points for the player. For example, if you're inside Area 18, the player can get access to it there.
Hey, Sam Bone, thank you so much for the $10 super chat. Thank you. Always coming in and showing some support and your thanks. I appreciate you. I hope you're having a good day.
You've gone in through one building, you go down, and it could bring you through to another part of a building. Let's start with rooftops. Now, up until now, we've largely designed our cityscapes to be more of a backdrop to the landing zone.
I want clouds on our corp. Give me clouds on our corp. And they better be low enough that the buildings are intersecting them, right? Like, if they don't do that, we all boycott Star Citizen. If the buildings aren't touching the clouds, we're not playing your game anymore, CIG.
We have the social space generally in the middle, and then the cityscape goes around it. And they've been designed to give the best composition, to be interesting to fly around. But we've not really thought about designing these buildings from the inside out. So what we're looking at here is some potential concepts for what could be interesting landing spaces that drives the architecture of the building. With landing pads, it doesn't necessarily need to be on the top of the building. It could be, halfway down or lower. So imagine, you're in the lower parts of the city, and then we'd open up these additional play spaces. And as you can see here, it's not just the landing pad, it's the gameplay space that goes along with it too. Now, it doesn't necessarily need to be
They do say could a lot in this. That's, I think, because of his position. Let's go back real quick. So he is the art director. Ian Leyland basically is stuck on a ball and chain called features. And I don't think he's ever going to drive what they do. So on his job description, it probably says, do not by any means ever suggest that a feature will come based on the art you're presenting, or else we'll have words. So he probably is trained himself to just say could before anything he ever talks about when it comes to concept art. I don't think the people who would probably be talking more about what would actually be happening in these missions would be this team that we're going to be watching here in the next video. So I don't think we're going to hear any sort of for sure gameplay in this. This is all concept. This is basically the same thing we got from the UGFs and CitizenCon. And probably we won't get more ideas of the actual gameplay until we hear from the content teams. And yeah, I feel you, Shamit, about the UGFs. I think what they're trying to do is set up these different locations as all being kind of the same. So space stations, outposts, UGFs, and buildings in cities. I think those are all going to be sort of the same type of location. So they're doing them all at the same time so that they're all ready around the same time. Bit like the stuff they showed during CitizenCon and Pyro, where there were some extremely low-lying. Oh yeah, the demo in 2021, I think it was. Which team works on UGFs? Isn't that the same team? You mean like the concept art or the gameplay? There's a concept print in this of something looking out a big window over the top of a cloud layer. Huh. Personally don't care what number a patch is. Currently have fun playing the game and excited for the future. It's fair. This is likely quite old footage and probably filmed. Oh, gosh dang it. I forget that. Yeah, I think this might have been filmed last year. Judging by how he was talking about it at the end, I completely forgot about that. Most recent CitizenCon, they pointed at it and kind of went, oh yeah, that wasn't intended. Oh, right. Yes, I remember. On the new Pyro planet. Imagine player-owned apartments. Hey, we were, there's some really good, let me take you back into history here. I want to find a screenshot for you. There's a really good screenshot from way back in the day of Habs. I hope I have it. I might not actually have it. But they used to do art showing off what they wanted Habs to look like in the long run. And there's some really, really good, like, homey vibes that I got from some of their old concept images. Should be somewhere in here. I might actually not have saved it because it was in an ISC. All right. At that time, it was around the verse. Yeah, I don't think it's here. Here's what I would love for RCorp to look like. I love this picture. Such cool vibes. I might not have it. Punch. Let me look up the UGFs. Let's see. Underground facilities. That is EU Sandbox team. So they are different from the other team. Underground facilities are EU Sandbox, and building interiors are Montreal Sandbox. But they're probably going for the same similar type of gameplay. I mean, I guess the building interiors have to give more social gameplay, but in terms of missions and stuff, I imagine they can't be that much different. Want to walk out of your personal living hab into your personal hangar. Fancy. All right, let's get back to the video.
And they've been designed to give the best composition, to be interesting to fly around, but we've not really thought about designing these buildings from the inside out. So
that's another one of those lines that kind of makes me think, like, okay, so maybe this wasn't the original idea for building interiors, which, you know, again, is a thing.
What we're looking at here is some potential concepts for what could be interesting landing spaces that drives the architecture of the building. With landing pads, it doesn't necessarily need to be on the top of the building. It could be, you know, halfway down or lower. So imagine, you know, you're in the lower parts of the city, and then we'd open up these additional play spaces. And as you can see here, it's not just the landing pad, it's the gameplay space that goes along with it too. Now, it doesn't necessarily need to be a single building. Imagine there is a network hub that services a few different buildings. So what we're looking at here is maybe like a transit hub where the player could land, get on some transit, and then that would lead to some buildings.
All right, that is pretty crazy. First, I want to say Depa, as always, coming in like a VIP. Thank you so much for the super chat, buddy. Hope you're having a good one. That really caught me off guard. The idea of a hub building for hangars and then other buildings coming off of there is that's basically a landing zone. I mean, it's a small landing zone, but like this sounds like the concept that they had. You know how on RCorp there are like 12 different like mini cities that you can go to and fly around? This sounds like an excuse for those other cities that aren't Area 18. Little mini landing zones to drop off packages, to go to stores, to drop off passengers, just like other stop-offs around the planet that are kind of like outposts. And I wasn't expecting to hear the idea of additional, what look like regional starports. Yeah, it looks like one of those areas in RCorp, which is probably what they concepted it after. But it says landing zone right there. It does. It does. They really wanted to sell that. It's just kind of surprising to see. Again, this is an expansion of scope, I think. Not a huge one, because they did have plans for building interiors. They did have plans for secondary landing areas on planets, but I think this is once again a case of they say that they're going to have a feature, but the actual size and fidelity of that feature isn't really explored until later when the feature is introduced. The same thing's probably going to happen for building for creating buildings. The same thing's probably going to happen for crafting. The same thing might happen to an extent for other styles of gameplay, like repair, farming, and xenolinguistics. We already know that you have to learn the actual language of aliens in this game. For those who didn't know, it's a whole language. You can learn it and speak it, and they'll have characters in the game that only speak that language, because that's what they do. Anyways, let's keep going.
Okay, so maintenance spaces. So these could be really interesting in terms of player interaction. You know, they could be dealing with the power or the maintenance of the building. And then also...
This is something that we see. I know I'm stopping a lot, but like I said, I publish the short ones on my second channel. We can find stuff like this on Orison already. If you go into the more industrial locations and you go around back, here's kind of a white box, gray box model of it where they were working on it. These, you might recognize these little silos here. They actually have areas down here that have full-on panels that have resource controls. You can see, you can see right there, they have resource controls that are meant to like do maintenance and industrial work. This kind of stuff is planted here and there throughout the game already. That's what they're updating things like Loreville for, but places like New Babbage and Orison already have it. They are working on building it into outposts as well. As you'll see in some of the video clips they've shown, here's like a refinery thing that they're working on. And let's see if there's anything else I can find quickly. Wow, there's a lot of footage for this. There's so much footage. I can't even... It won't stop. Here's another one. This is like a mining facility. You can see that they have interactable parts there labeled in yellow. So there's like little things here and there. This is all the stuff that they're building in low key. Off to the side, you can see solar panels here. This is for power kind of stuff. So this is all part of the plan. And they're now talking about building it into the buildings themselves, places where we can go and do maintenance, get industrial work, get jobs like that. And if you look at the recent monthly report, oh boy, I should have had this already pulled up. If you look at the recent monthly report, they actually mention that they're working on more narrative-based missions for cities. Let's see. Yeah, so Narrative also is seeking to leverage their dedicated narrative designers to look at the current mission giver setup as well as prototype simple story-based missions that could be placed around the various landing zones. So it's all kind of adding up to the point that they want to have sort of industrial and maintenance and delivery and passenger transport missions tied into these buildings, and we can see the signs of that basically everywhere.
So you could have technical spaces. So these would be more for technicians. It could deal with the data or the communications. And what we're looking at here is potential some, gameplay puzzles where the player has to...
And then this is an obvious call out. Maybe not obvious, but I think this is a call out to the Microtech mission in CitizenCon 2019. Building interiors will likely be the type of thing that make those possible.
Work their way inside the main operation booth. So moving on to resident.
Hey, I see you guys talk about weather, and I'm sitting here in shorts and a short sleeve shirt with my window open when we should be sitting in like 2 feet of snow outside. It snowed one time this year, and it's been warm enough for me to be out in a freaking t-shirt. We're literally on the Black Sea. Like on the other side of the water from us is Russia. It's supposed to be freaking cold. It's really strange. Sorry.
Residential. So there's a huge amount of potential here. What we wanted to do with residential is two things. One, explore investigating the potential player housing. So with that, we want to be able to create a variety of interior layouts. And also we want to explore a variety of architectural styles. So when we're looking at...
You guys think they'll do communal habs? Doesn't this look kind of like a place that has like 2 or 3 bedrooms? How realistic do you think that is? Maybe an org? Like org habs? That'd be interesting. South of Russia is not that cold. Bruh, What? If you're here, you know it gets cold. Cold enough to snow, though. My point being, I'm not in California where I normally am in the winter, where this makes sense. I'm on the ocean that shares waters with some of the colder areas in the world, and it's just, I'm sitting here in a short sleeve. Northern Turkey is where I live. Definitely a couple people. Yeah, I think that would be very cool. I hadn't thought about it before.
We want to be able to create a variety of interior layouts. And also we want to explore a variety of architectural styles. So when we're looking at potential housing layouts, we wanted something fairly modular in a way in which we could create a variety of combinations. So whether it's living spaces or habitation spaces.
You would pick the upper bunk, Skippy.
And also here we're looking at, we want the place to eventually be able to populate the player-owned habitation. So
this is the part where I start to think to myself, like, okay, expectations. Let's be careful of expectations. Because how far is this kind of thing going to go?
See here, like a first indication of how, you know, the sort of dressing styles that you'd be able to do. Outside of something that's fairly utilitarian, we also want to do something that could be fairly high-end. So here we're just exploring some ideas about what a space could feel like on a different architectural style.
Yes, Svalbard, isn't that more like a northern name? Don't quote me on that. I don't actually know my linguistics. Maybe that's also already looking at some base building. They've mentioned it here and there.
And more generous windows, you know, interior space is dedicated to more than just habitation. And these would be focused on other landing zones. So imagine you come across these in Area 18, or it could be when we come to Terra. And also, like I said, it could be informing...
Hello, Georgia neighbor. We have some... I think we have some Georgian in the family. Definitely have Georgian in the family. Like, one generation back. So that's pretty... I'll be right back.
Future player-owned habitation architectural sets. Now, outside of the living quarters, there's also the social spaces just outside. And we want these to be more than just the corridors that we're seeing in the game right now. So these could be multi-layered social spaces. And these could also inform advanced traversal routes for the player to be able to get inside these habitation rooms. So as we're talking through various architectural styles, what you're seeing here is just a collection of ideas, a collection of architectural intent to create like a palette or a mood that will inform art style and gameplay opportunities. So outside of residential, we're moving into the commercial area. So what this means is it means we can look at areas that are more gameplay focused outside of player habitation. So when we're talking about these could be office blocks, these could be corporate owned. Inside here, there could be corporate wings.
Yeah, who's trying to live that corporate life in Star Citizen. Just do some good old Hurston cubicle work. Ew.
Could be manufacturing, there could be office spaces. And what we try to think about with these, it's more than just a flat room. There should be advanced traversal, it should be multi-tiered. So outside of the commercial offices, we've also got like restaurants and bars. So what we're looking at here is a pretty cool like skyline bar in Lowville. That could be fun. But also in restaurants, Chris always described the idea of really high-end restaurants in the game where you can get access to food choices that isn't available anywhere else. So right at the foot of the building, we're going to start talking about the lobby. So as I said before, these are going to be access points to the player, but also we can do more than just a standard foyer that we're seeing in the game right now. So this sort of space we're seeing here is, imagine there's an underground...
See, now this reminds me a ton, and it might be what they're going for. This reminds me a ton of Leavesden Square, I think, in Lorville. Even the styling looks like it. So I would love if they were able to incorporate this kind of thing into the landing zone itself and just use that as a way to expand the landing zone.
Transit network, and that transit station feeds a network of building lobbies. So these could be social spaces. These could be really good combat spaces. They could have access to mini restaurants or bars or facilities. And we're just showing that in a variety of art styles. So one's a fairly low end, one could be fairly high end, but the infrastructure is the same. So as we're exploring art style opportunities, this then drives where it would be appropriate. So some would be more appropriate in somewhere like Area 18, some would be more appropriate in somewhere like Horizon, and obviously some would be more appropriate for future landing zones like Odessa or Prime.
He said Odessa! GII! That's like our home, basically.
And also when we're talking about lobbies, again, what we're trying to do is we're trying to describe multi-layer traversal spaces. So in these illustrations, you're seeing a variety of routes to then help inform the initial conversation with level design. Now, finally, we're going to talk about the underground. Now, this is, I think, one of the coolest spaces. So rather than just focusing on the positive axis of the building, we're going to look at the underground. Now, what this does, it means we can access a whole...
You're from Odessa? Like, in Ukraine? I didn't know that.
Whole area of play space that doesn't need to be contained inside the building. So within a lobby, we want the player to start to traverse down into these spaces, and these could be underground transit networks. They could be abandoned underground transit networks.
This could be how they filter, how they fit roads into cities. Like roads that are underneath the cities that go to little hideouts. Metro, Citizen Metro, Metro Citizen 2033.
This then could drive potential racing opportunities. So when we was doing this, we thought, oh, it'd be really cool. Like, what would it look like if there's an underground street race going on there? Also, there could be traversal opportunities. Like I said before, if the player wanted to go into one building, down, and then through, and then up into another building, what would that traversal network be like? Especially if we're thinking about, if it's an older part of the underground of a city, maybe it's less used, you know, people have built up, that would instantly inspire a whole bunch of...
How do you feel about the feasibility of this? What are your first reactions to the idea of a building with this much explorability and also connections like underground? I haven't honestly gotten a great read on people's reactions to the building interiors. I haven't seen too much discussion about it. You want to run some Black Ops and tunnel scene out? Yeah, I can get with you on that. You think they can pull it off? They pulled off Siege of Orison. Yeah. How long did that take, though? No idea how they might make it happen. Love the idea. It's like Star Citizen in general. Needs server meshing to work. Yeah, it's definitely a post-server meshing kind of thing. Rest in peace, your CPU. The city's already run slow. Not sure how they optimize all this for FPS play. I think like Gumbo said, server meshing is going to have to take a big part of the load. Why is my chat frozen again? Look at this. It's just not moving. What did I didn't even... Why? Why does this happen? There's no reason. Now I have to relaunch the app again. Jeez. Free stream is a pain. Everything feels like a pain. Just use their website. I'm not trying to pay for that. Level design actually absolutely is a thing you can throw more people at. And AI. Feels like the planet's right now. Like awesome concept, but at the end, huge barren space with nothing to do on it. So great if it comes, but even better if we have a reason to be there. Well, these are supposed to be what fills in those huge barren spaces. Well, these and the outposts and stuff. But I get what you're saying. You build the locations and then fill it with stuff. You can't even log into their chat app, Grumpy. Isn't it crazy how much of this stuff is just so not functional? Look for object culling. Oh yeah, there's that too. All right, let's keep going.
Traversal and investigation missions there. Or maybe there's an old aqueduct or an old infrastructure underground. You know, this could be perfect for underground street racing or other racing opportunities. So in a nutshell, what we looked at is a blue sky investigation into what building interiors could be like for the game. These are essentially dungeon kits. You know, we want to be able to work on these areas in a fairly procedural manner, and we want these to be dungeon opportunities for gameplay spaces. It also will start to inform the future of player-owned habitation and the type of visuals or look and feels that could be. So this ties into a much larger initiative. So we're seeing it a little bit now with the redo of Lowville. That's turning into a much bigger cityscape. And what that means is every city in the game is ready for these building interior spaces. Now, one thing to note is the cityscapes are probably going to change a little bit. Just from an initial investigation, we found our buildings are quite small. So expect to see the skylines go through a period of...
That was another line that makes me feel like the scale of the expectations that were set before were not equal to what were set now, and that the buildings were small, despite knowing. And it could be that they just knew that they would need to update them in the future, but it could go either way.
Transition, but that's cool because that means we're designing the inside of the buildings and then we'll redo the architecture to fit to that. So I think it's going to be super positive for the game. So just in case we was thinking it's all just blue sky concept, actually we're going to start full production on these spaces right at the end of this quarter.
So we don't know what quarter he's in when he says that. This could be last quarter. I think there's a good chance this could be last quarter. Let's see what Jared says. Yeah, DEF CON, we went over that today. So the person who's talking right now is a lead art person. He can't make any calls in terms of gameplay because that would put other people on pressure to do things he's saying that he doesn't actually know about. So when some people are saying we have plans to, we're going to, we could do this, we want to do that, that's because they've put together the location or maybe the tech, but they're not the ones making the content. So they pick very careful words to make sure they're not putting other people in tough spaces. But on top of that, yeah, they still plan for stuff now. I don't think they'll ever not be planning for stuff. I think even when the game is quote unquote released, they'll still be introducing things that are going to be based on variables. Even engineering our fiber optic broke, go fix it, and then it turns out it's a gang that tapped into it. Jesus. There's a mission.
So, what did we learn this week?
I'm like, what is going on here? These pictures they put in the background.
Well, we learned that much like the new underground facilities we showcased before, building interiors will be a new series of modular set pieces, enabling a whole host of gameplay opportunities, from trade to exploration to combat and PvP and much more. And that, much like those new UGFs, they're going into production now, and in fact, by the time this airs, will already have started.
So by the time this airs, they already would have started. Much like the UGFs, they're going into production now. I guess we did know that the UGS went into production in the last couple months, so it probably was still filmed this year. So I guess it probably is no more than a month old at most. That's what I would set my expectations on. Do we really need 100+ star systems if the star systems are going to be this robust? I don't think so. I think most people wouldn't mind if there weren't 100 star systems, but some people want a lot. Maybe by 4.0. I think the plan is for 4.0 or maybe the patch or two after that, yeah.
And that the journey to 4.0 may have Pyro at its center, but it will still continue to evolve all aspects of Star Citizen and the existing persistent universe around it. Now, we'll be back with more Inside Star Citizen next week. But for our Journey to 4.0, I'm Jared Huckabee, and we'll be back in about a month or so with our next big look forward. See you then.
I wonder what they do next. Honestly, I wonder what their next thing that they want to talk about with 4.0 is. Like they can't bring in too many things. Like you can't introduce too much stuff at 4.0. That's going to mess you up. So that was that. Now we're going to talk to the mission features team. Now, this is the team who would talk more about what they'll actually do as opposed to what they just could do. These are the people who are putting together the missions, taking the features, and implementing them into something to do. So they would be more along that line of discussion. 10 plus years in development and everything feels broken. Good job, Sai. You know, I understand where you're coming from. But from everybody I've talked to who makes games, games generally feel broken up until they're about to be launched. And I think Star Citizen is going to be kind of similar. Although it does feel like they're keeping it way more stable than a normal game might be during that time. They seem to be focused on content density, which is a great thing. Building out the system, yeah. Since when CIG is averse to going back on their word, I just tend to not assume that first. It's always possible. In the 4.x patch branch, not just 4.0. Which is saying a lot, if that is true, because the 4.x patch branch could go into the next 4 years. So it's an easy way to get out of a commitment, I guess. Quality over quantity. Handcrafted quality is a big selling point. I like a good mix. You're a software engineer. Trust you, that's not just with game dev. I remember when I made my first program. Lots of bug fixing. Had to teach it to make a little pyramid like Mario would jump over. And I had to bug fix every single one as we went. That was not a fun. That's why I didn't become a programmer. I started coding and making videos at the same time, and I realized I'm better at making videos. Jared has said that specifically, though, so good to manage expectations. That's fair. I always figured it was like the first few patches after 4.0. I really hope it's not just like any patch following 4.0. But I do understand that most of the stuff, or some of the stuff, won't be in that exact patch. They haven't changed the system map, and they keep releasing lore of new worlds. All right, let's start on this one. Let's start talking about missions.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Star Citizen Live, the mission feature team. I'm your host, Jared Huckabee, and if you've never seen Star Citizen Live before, it's where we take about an hour out of the end of our week, and we hang out with some of our developers, we chat, we shoot the... Oh, I don't want to use my one that early in the show. We shoot the stuff, and we talk
That's
about
why you
the
need one
stuff
of
that's
these buttons.
been worked on, being worked on, and will be worked on, and stuff like that. On today's show, we are proud and honored. I'm thinking about the conversation we had before. I'm very honored to have members of the mission feature team on the show. Let's meet Ed and Elliot and Lars and James.
Ed and Eddie.
Hi, guys.
Dave Lee, I'm right there with you. I could care less if we have 2 or 3 or 4 star systems. I mean, I'd like 3, I think minimum, in the next few years, but I'm more interested in the features and gameplay.
Hey. Hello. Yeah, it's all right.
We were just talking about how all those when you're doing like the Nintendo Directs and stuff.
E3.
Not just Nintendo, but E3 and anything like this.
Yeah, Jared got some good memes this weekend.
To be here and blah 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 blah. So it got in my head.
Sorry.
Sorry.
I ruined your take.
If I were professional, I could have avoided it, but I'm not. So yeah, members of the mission feature team, you guys make the features that are used in the missions.
Way to butcher us.
I mean, it makes sense.
Completely true.
This has been.
How many years has this team been here for?
How many years have I?
I like Elliot. I see Elliot pop up in people's chats. He goes on the ISC. He always seems very cool and like open to talking about what he's doing and getting and diving deep into it. Seems like a cool guy. I don't know the other folks. I'm happy to hear more about them. But Elliot's a cool dude. I hope to get to talk to him at some point. Oh yeah, our Corsair giveaway is still going on, by the way, folks. Exclamation Corsair if you'd like to get in on that.
I've been here for it.
Exactly. It's even worse.
All right. So let's just start off. Let's introduce you. Some of you folks have been on. Like we all know Elliot. We're gonna leave Elliot for last. You've seen Elliot. He was on CitizenCon and stuff like that. Well, let's go to the people we haven't seen in a while. Some of you we haven't seen in a long while. Some of you we've never seen before. Let's start with you. Who are you? What do you do for Star Citizen?
Right, so I'm Lars, and obviously part of the mission feature team. Quite a new hire, relatively. We're approaching 1 year at this point. And started, just working on new features that we'll be talking about later, and did a bit of that in the background, Korea.
Korea?
Worked a bit on that.
Cool.
So.
What's your title, Lars?
I think it's officially like Systems Designer 2.
Yeah.
Oh,
There's a 2
congratulations.
behind it, thank you.
The sequels are always better than the original. We were just talking about Ghostbusters 2 earlier. Ghostbusters 2 is a good movie. James, who are you and what do you do?
Hello, so I'm James Tyler. I'm a systems designer too as well, like Lars. Luckily enough to work on the MFT team. I remember when I got offered the thing and I felt very honored to join the team that was already there. But yeah, recently...
Hey guys, I'm sorry. We're looking at a different bot for YouTube because Stream Elements doesn't ever seem to want to post there for some reason. Oops. You can find the link down below, and Mrs. Tomato also just dropped the link in chat. Sorry about that, YouTube. It's an annoying problem.
Worked on time trials, which we'll go over later, I believe. And I also spent a bit of time earlier last year working on Siege of Horizon with Elliot.
Cool. Ed, who are you? What do you do? And most especially, what is your title?
Okay, fine. Well, my name's Edward Fuller, and I am the senior principal system designer.
Didn't you mean assistant?
No, I am not that.
I think you meant assistant.
No, senior principal system designer on the mission feature team. And I've been here for over about 6.5 years on that team. And so I've worked on all kinds of missions over that time. And I also work on the law system and hostility system and also dynamic events. So the one that I maintain, look after is Xenothreat for 318 as well. Yeah. And there's some other future stuff.
Wow, they actually talked about naming star systems in this game?
And last and least, Elliot, who are you?
Hello.
Not gonna lie, I didn't know that.
The more familiar we get, the worse I get. I apologize.
It's all right.
So, Elliot, who are you and what do you do for Star Citizen?
Hi, I'm Ellie Moby. I'm the actual senior principal.
No, you're not.
I'm the principal designer on the MFT team. I make missions, features, and a bunch of other stuff.
And
We
teams.
kindly went over all of it. Most recently, Siege. In the future, you all know I'm building investigation missions. And I also help Lars and everyone else maintain.
I mean, I help everyone else as well.
Yeah, well, obviously.
I help you because I'm your senior.
Yeah,
so.
well, assistant. So yeah, we all work together and build a lot of stuff, but I'm known for Siege.
It's going to be one of those shows.
Hey man, don't get mad at us for being cool with 5 systems. I never promised a new number of systems. I'm cool with a small amount of dense systems. You want a lot of systems. No reason for us to be at odds about that. I think they should still get a lot of his systems in, but I'm cool with a smaller game that's more dense.
We don't actually talk to a lot of principals. I want to talk about that real quick. Folks who watch the shows with regularity, I mean, I've been doing this for going on 8 years now and stuff. It's kind of easy to work out the associate or junior to, just what it is, 1, 2, 3, and then you get the seniors and stuff like this, and then leads and stuff like this. But principals are usually kind of off.
I get that you paid into it. but I'm just saying, like, that was when I joined the game, I was interested in a space game to like fly around and be a part of. I do like exploration. I don't really care much for like the whole naming stuff deal and like finding systems, because No Man's Sky and Elite Dangerous kind of did that for me, but it didn't really capture me. I was more interested in the smaller type of exploration. But yeah, I will say that they're not doing that, it seems, or they haven't really talked about that. I don't know, maybe they will. Oh, does chat have pixels poking out? Get out of here, chat. You ugly little thing. Yeah, they might have changed their concept for that, which is a shame. Because it would be cool for them to have different scales of exploration. I wonder if they'll end up going back to that or not. There we go.
To the side, we don't get to talk a lot about principles. So what is a principle? What does that modifier to a title mean? At CIG anyway. We'll only speak for CIG.
Well, I mean, for me, I think principals they're people who specialize in the subject.
Yeah, I'll give you that. If they're not going to do that, then that's a lie. But I do like the denser game myself.
Matters that they focus on, and they are, they really know that they also are very dependable. Yeah.
You hear that, Luke?
No, but they can also like see complex features through, and also guide more junior designers and even senior designers, and show their juniors the ropes and show them the systems and talk them through the whole process of developing Star Citizen and stuff like that. I mean, maybe Elliot has something he'd like to add.
We're kind of like an information well, so we need to know a lot about all of the systems we own in case anyone needs to know something about, say, like, oh, how do I set up jurisdictions? And then they know to come to MFT and they can talk to the principals, even though we might not work every day with them. We're like a sponge. We have to remember that information and not let any of it go, so we can go, oh, right, okay, this is how that worked. But for a lot of the time, we've been writing a lot of documentation, so we don't have to
documentation. It's like you have so many designers, and they come to you asking questions, and at some point you're like, I can't answer the same question like 20 times. I need to start writing this down, and then a lot of it's just like pouring all of that information onto pages so that more and more people can just digest it in their own time. And
but the worst thing that comes from that is that obviously we're still building the game. Is it takes you like a full day to write this huge system up, and you're like, I've done it. And then the next day, one of the engineers will go, I changed how this worked, and you're like, oh.
Right. It's even worse than that, because the whole day that you're spending writing on it, you're not actually developing something new. So your work pauses for a day. You spend a day writing it all up, so other people go, like, I'm done. And someone goes, oh, right. While you were writing that.
Oof, this is why I didn't want to do coding stuff.
I changed this, and you're like, oh.
Yes. That's why there's a lot in any video game development. I've worked a few places, but there's a thing called tribal knowledge. There's so much that is never written down, because it changes so frequently and rapidly that to spend time writing it down would be a waste of everybody's stuff. So the tribal knowledge can sometimes get a bit overwhelming, and I think that's a big part of where principles come from. It's the role that I often fulfill, and on my half of the things like this, it's just people like, all right, in 2016 we had this thing where we did this, and like nobody's touched it for a while. What is that? I'm like, oh, that's this. And you can go here and find that, and then you bring it out of mothballs and find out it still works, and it'll solve a thing that you need over here. It's like that. So yeah, it's always a battle between, you should write everything down, but you lose the time doing when you're writing, and then if you know it's going to change next week, you don't want to waste that time writing it down now, and it's going to change, but you don't know how much it's going to change yet.
About 3 years ago, I think I remember trying to write a document about how to put like multiplayer stuff logic into missions, and I started writing it, and then I was like, this is going to take ages. And then I just knew on the horizon it was all going to change. So I just went, Luke, I'm not going to write that now. I'm just not going to bother. It'll be out of date by like next week.
The page says,
So-
And dozens of Star Citizen fans were angry because they didn't. No, wouldn't that be funny though? If like he said that and we went back and traced what happened, and it's like that's why that feature was delayed. That'd be funny.
yeah.
Yeah, but we've written it now. Like we've written them now because things are solidified a lot more. But at the time, they were not super
To be
solidified.
fair, I've seen both sides of the coin as well. Like when I first joined, I found a couple of little systems where, you know, I'd go to Elliot and I'd be like, please help me with this. I don't understand it. And then he'd be like, yeah, that part is tribal knowledge. And
The scale of the project management. I mean, from like just listening to bits and snippets here and there, trying to code on a different branch, and I guess this is kind of like how GitHub works or a repository in general, is like people all coding on the same thing, compiling all that together and making it run. And just like from all these different places on all these different things and all these different systems, that's so much.
you know, we're going to do better and we're going to write that documentation down. And then Ed and Elliot have gone away, spent, like Elliot said, you know, a day writing this, and it's saved us so much time further down the line when, you know, me and Lars or whoever's coming back to these things, we can just read it. You know, there's GIFs, there's all sorts, you know, to help us out. So
I try to put personality in mine. I put like memes and pictures, and then I have to go because Ed is my senior. I have to send him the document, and he goes through it and he's like, remove that.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
I'm not that killjoy. It's just
Okay. No, I'm very well of the memes that are embedded. In our Halloween special we did back in 2019, when we did Jeremiah and I did a sequence called "The Things We've Seen," and it was exclusively of memes that were pulled from our Confluence pages. Right. And so it was all things that had been embedded in design documents and process documents, usually in what not to do, where it ends up like this. If you've never seen that, it's on our YouTube channel. It's called The Easy Hab of Horror. Highly recommend it. Ignore the fact that I'm dressed like an old Jewish vampire.
What is an
There's
old...
a lot of, you'll see a great example of the memes that these guys often embed in their Confluence pages. Let's talk about the mission feature team itself. Now, there's some, I don't want to, there's some, I'm trying to think of the word I want. There may be some misunderstandings or what about what the team actually does, because the name is like, you know, for mission feature team, it's not missions team, it's mission feature team. Now you guys do make missions. We've done enough segments where it's like, oh yeah, I worked on this mission, stuff like this, but you guys also make the mission verbs, the components, the technology that then other people who are not on the mission feature team go and make more missions and stuff like that. So talk to me about that balance. Like what determines whether you guys are the ones who make the mission and whether you guys are the ones who make the technology, like the time trials and stuff like that, that then other people and other teams will go and make their own missions.
so we always try to make the first mission. So when it comes to building the feature, the best way to build the feature is to build it in a mission to be able to test it.
So you know it works.
So we know it works, exactly. So, you know, when we come up with the time trial system, you know, and James will design it and they'll also build the first mission. Korea, overall, everyone looks at it as the new Korea update, but internally we...
Catch you later, Ace. Thanks for dropping by.
...the attack module that is essentially for telling if there are bad guys at a location and sending out a mission to retake it. Then there's the timed item dispenser, which is what Jumptown runs on as well and Korea runs on, is just spit out boxes for us at every X amount of minutes. So we build all those modules and then build something to use them, because then we can go to the...
Jack, I understand you're disappointed, but I'm going to have to ask for a little bit laying off on the negative party in chat. I understand that, like, they have taken a long time to get this stuff done and it feels really sour. I get that. I feel you. They're not respecting a lot of people's time, but it does start to weigh on everybody, and we're trying to, you know, have a good talk about the missions and the mission team. So I get you. I do. Just want to say though.
Content teams, we've built this. This is how we used it as an example, and here's all the documentation. Knock yourselves out.
Right, and everybody from like the EU locations teams to the Montreal teams to anybody else, once they see you've now given them a working example, And once you guys get around to writing the documentation, they now have the documentation of how it breaks apart and what modules are being used for what. And now they can go and make their own mission content. We've seen that with the Montreal team, who are making the all those new crashed derelict locations and the shanty towns and stuff. They're using the mission features that you guys have put together now and assembling all their own missions.
Yes.
I kind of hoped the thing that they talked about here was like the investigation stuff that Elliot's working on. They talk about how that's its own mission. I was really hoping they were going to talk about how like investigations would be their own module that they could put into other missions. So like if there was a bounty hunting mission and they wanted to package that in, they could like drop in an investigation segment of it. They could drop in like an exploration segment of it where you have to track somebody down, or like a FPS segment of it. And maybe that is what they're talking about. Maybe I didn't get it super clearly. Let's listen again. I'm pretty sure these are the only guys that do missions for the PU.
The EU,
Last part of the show is great. Oh, is this the one where he does the drawing? I did want to see that. I haven't gotten to watch that yet.
Locations teams to the Montreal teams to anybody else. Once they see you've now given them a working example, and breaks apart with the Montreal team and all their
Can focus on.
There we go.
Yes.
From it stuff.
It's kind of also like it's good for them because they can focus on content expansion a lot more than bug fixing. Because I work with I think his name's I can't pronounce it.
Hey Rev, thank you for the sub. I think I missed where you talked.
The time trial system.
Here we go.
So in the
Time trial.
So we always try to make the first mission. So when it comes to building the feature, the best way to build the feature is to build it in a mission to be able to test it.
So you know it works.
So we know it works, exactly. So when we come up with the time trial system, and James will design it, and they'll also build the first mission. Korea, overall, everyone looks at it as the new Korea update, but internally we go, well, that's the location under attack module that is essentially for telling if there are bad guys at a location and sending out a mission to retake it. Then
Okay, see, that sounds like what they're gonna do with Ghost Hollow is gonna have that same attack module. By the way, I don't know when 318 is going to open PTU, but I'm imagining they want to aim for this week. It sounds like they're trying to get it within a few days of something, so hopefully this week, but we don't really know for sure. Did he say time travel system? Time trial, maybe?
Actually for telling if there are bad guys at a location and sending out a mission to retake it. Then there's the timed item dispenser, which is what Jumptown runs on.
Time something dispenser. Ravixi, thank you, by the way, also for subbing. Here's your sub. I appreciate you, man. Thanks for the support. 6 months now. Big months. Thank you.
On as well, and Korea runs on, is just spit out boxes for us at every X amount of minutes. So we build all those modules and then build something to use them, because then we can go to the content teams. We've built this. This is how we used it as an example, and here's all the documentation. Knock yourselves out.
Right.
But he's not super clear about if that also includes investigation. That's what I'd love to hear more about.
A lot more than bug fixing.
Just so that we know that they're not handcrafting every single mission. They're just kind of plugging in these different types of missions. And he hints at it, but I want to hear more, I do also hope for open PTU this week.
Because I work with, I think his name's...
We really need to go open.
I'm going to say Guillaume. It's GT.
Okay. Guillaume.
Guillaume Thioret.
Yeah.
Yes.
I won't try the last name.
I'm sorry if you're watching, butchered it. So what he'll do is he'll set up the what we call eliminate all, which is just kill a bunch of people at this location. He'll set it up, and then if there's a bug with it, because we own the base system, there'd be a bug with every single one all over the system, because they're all built modular. So then he can just go, right, there's a bug here, off you go, Elliot, and then carry on expanding, and then we can investigate into if it's on our side, or maybe it's something gone wrong with setup or something like that. So it just gives them more time to do content expansion rather than focusing on these little bugs that we can quickly do.
Yeah. And that's how that's how this scales. That's how people like it's you're building prototypes and stuff that are often used in Stanton stuff. But when people are when people are concerned that like Pyro will be emptier and won't have stuff to do. It's like there are all these other location teams now have all the, are they called verbs? Is that what they're called, the mission verbs?
Modules, really.
Modules?
Verbs and modules.
Modules, yeah.
Verbs are
That'll
like
be
the
the next question.
gameplay type.
Okay, verbs are the gameplay type.
And then the module
Okay, so then verb would be the investigation.
is what they plug in to achieve that verb.
Module would be what's plugged in. Gosh, this is an interesting topic. I would love to hear them talk more about this, just like a Q&A, which I guess is the whole point of this video. I'm excited to keep going on this one. I see 2 new members in chat, Tony1230 and Chach. I like that name, Chach. Thank you both for becoming members on YouTube. Becoming a member over there will give you access to all the exclusive videos that we do on YouTube. There are several of them that talk a little bit more in depth about Star Citizen development. If you're interested, you can also join us on the Discord, and we'll help you with the game, or you could jump into the exclusive chat channels. Either way, thank you so much for the support.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it could be multiple, could
Ace.
be one.
Yes.
Gotcha. So the idea would then be that with all these features, all the modules and everything, they can now go into Pyro and just start adding missions all over the place.
It's just like Lego. They're just putting the bricks on top of each other and figuring out what they want to build.
I have made some hideous Lego though.
I think
I'm sure we all have.
I think one of the things that stands out as well from MFT is
Hydrate, everybody.
the fact that we do make those modules for everyone else to use, but we also think of the developer experience as well. Within, how do they want to use this? How can we speed up the mechanic for them to even just place it in the game and whatnot?
Yeah, and modules aren't done once they're made. I mean, Elliot's probably adapted some of those modules, like added new features as content teams.
No water? What are you doing?
In ways that current modules just don't quite serve, and then he goes back in and he adds those inputs and adds that functionality, and then even more possibilities are possible.
And back to documentation for all the new additions.
You make an interesting point, James, about it's not just, it's so often assumed that we just make things for the players, but there are many
We are the only thing that matter. You do not serve any other beings but us.
teams. I loved when I get to do things with the tools scheme or whatever, and it's about the stuff that we make for the developers. You also have to make this interfaceable, usable by all the teams, and then you will get requests from other team members like this.
That is, I think, the most obvious part of game development that I stupidly never thought of before I started following Star Citizen. I never figured, like, hey, the company kind of has to make the stuff that they need to use to make the game, which I guess isn't true for people who are using third-party engines, but that's an interesting thought. It's like you got to make the scaffolding before you can put it up around the building that you need to build.
Module's impossible to use. I can't get it to do it. Can you put a button over here to skip this step? It's like that.
Take care of your S71. Get some water, DJ.
Is there an interface? Is there like a specific interface for the mission features to use the modules? Like if I'm on the Montreal team and I've got to make a mission and say, okay, what am I opening up to build it? Is it flow graph? Is it?
It's documentation. They open documentation. It tells them in which tools they can do what to do what. When we talk about, say, having that developer experience, when you, like, for anyone else who opens up stuff like UE5, that is a highly polished engine for wide use. Yeah. If any other games company, it is not widely polished. It is make it work, and then the devs can usually figure it out. And sometimes it is the most horrible or like very difficult to do sort of pipeline. However, we make a big effort to try and go, right, well, if we put this here and put this here and this here and that here, that's going to make it more obvious. And we'll document it like this because they need to read the documentation because it's not always 100% clear. So there are little bits and bobs where we'll change how something works purely so on the front end of it for another developer, they can go, that's what that does, that makes more sense. Yeah. And we do a lot of heavy lifting on the back end to save them having to do that pain on the front end.
Some plain English inputs and stuff like that. But in the background, it's all like...
Yo, somebody's got a chonker of a water bottle there.
Over the longer course of development, there will eventually be some kind of interface.
Absolutely, it does improve. Like the tools guys are working all the time on making it better, and we feed that back to them, and they make it better.
I got tagged on Twitter about in the monthly report. There was a mention of the Subsumption Apollo. A tool, and they're like, "Hey, will you do a segment and tell us about the Subsumption Apollo?" And I went to the AI.
Is Lars a Hydra homie?
What the heck is Apollo? Like, it's basically a GUI for subsumption. That's all.
GUI.
It's just a little wrapper that sits on top of subsumption and lets them access it while inside the engine, so they don't have to go to another program. But
That's
it is
pretty
essentially
cool.
just an interface.
Yeah.
That
They should show us that. I'd like to see the updated subsumption tools they have.
sits on top. So eventually there'll be something like that, and then this will just keep exponentially
Yeah,
growing.
absolutely.
So let's talk about 318. We'll start with the time trials, James, because we've already mentioned it. The time trials was a new tech that you guys developed that basically unlocked all of these location teams to suddenly start going, oh, we can now add races here and there and there and stuff like that. How did that come about?
Well, as you mentioned, unlocking those areas for those teams was one of the major goals there. And we thought, when it comes to racing, how can we make an implementation that can be used in so many different ways? Because obviously the PU is like a sandbox. You want to be able to just plonk this down wherever you want. You want to make interesting locations. So when it came to racing in general, we'd looked what came before. So we had scramble racing in the past, and we wanted something new. And we looked at what people enjoy doing, and we looked at the community in general as well. Like, there's so many amazing racing communities out there. And what they'd done is they had these leaderboards on a website, that people raced around. Now you had to, trust the person had done that in that time, or there was no way of them actually having their times or anything tracked in officially. So we ended up coming together, me, Ed, Luke, working on this design together and thinking the best ways of basically giving them those capabilities of being able to do that in the game. Time trials akin to kind of rallying was kind of the first thing that came to my head. I'm a big fan of rallying, like Colin McRae and whatnot, and it also kind of benefited as well in a way that you didn't need a million different other people in that one location to do the race. You could, if no one else came to that location, still have a fun time on your own.
That was the problem with the original scramble races. For those who didn't know, CIG tried to do races a long time ago, back in like 3.6 maybe, or something like that, 2019 or so. They tried to do races that were called scramble races, and basically you'd go to a place, take a mission, it would take you to a place, and you'd just sit at that spot until other people came to that place and filled in the spots. Since the races didn't go very well, the game was fairly unstable, so nobody people were playing that much. And everybody was pretty bored. Nobody ever sat there for enough time for a race to actually start. So you would just go there, wait 3 minutes, and then it wouldn't work. I tried several times, but I never was able to get into a race. They were time trials. You'd need wider. Oh, you're talking about what they have now. Yeah, right now what they have is racing against the clock, time trial races. But back then they were trying to do community races as missions that came on your contract manager, and it did not work. Love your content. Have been watching you for the last year or so. Watched this the other day. What's the most interesting thing to you so far? Probably the modular aspect of the missions they're working on. The difference between verbs and modules. I'd love to hear more about that. Thank you, by the way, John.
Led us to, the current implementation, really. We do have some future goals, and I think Ed will speak more on that.
Right now, though. Maybe. In the future.
Yeah, in the future.
Well, maybe in the future of this show, but it's 318.
Yeah, but it was super fun to make, and
Killjoy.
Look at Ed being such a good guest. No, we're on the topic of 318. Keep it.
No, keep the show on. On track.
I'm like Tom Holland, and I'm trying to spill stuff.
But it's another good example of when we were doing the feature segments on ISC, because that story was about the physical creation of the racetrack and stuff like that. So you saw a lot of artisan, but it's a wonderful reminder that we can't put everybody who works on a thing in a single segment and the stuff. These are the people who have stepped forward to tell this story today. But there are many folks underneath, from mission feature folks to tech artists to animators to everything that all make these things possible. Yep. Like what else did you work on that players can look forward to in 318?
Korea is coming out.
The new Korea?
So that
which
was
we're parked outside.
Oh yeah, that's really cool.
Depends on what side of the fence you're on with Korea to if you enjoy it or not. PvP focused we tried for, so
Yeah.
some people might not as much enjoy it. But
Correa is cool.
this universe is meant to mesh
I am
everyone
not a PvP player, but Correa is fun.
together. So if you don't like it, you've got to try and avoid it.
Welcome
Or
back,
be a
Jack.
good citizen, right? That's the other way.
Be good. Yeah.
Like I said, that's the easiest way to avoid it is don't break the law.
Exactly.
Of course,
Yeah, just
of course,
do it.
we need
Or check your
the
fire in your jail.
we need the hostility system and law system to like always work.
I mean, we are
You-
always
you,
active
you,
on
you
that.
can't put
Yo, I mean, we need an update on the law system. Here.
can't put the emphasis entirely on the players.
We are
Can you roll
always
bad? We're
Those
gonna
are
count on
systems,
it.
they are
It- it-
systems that belong to us, and we do constantly monitor and look at those.
Feeling better now? Would you hit a joint? Pass it.
Luke is constantly on.
It's 420
always
somewhere.
on the
Oh my God, it's literally 420 somewhere in Europe. It's it's actually
Probably sees
that's
blue
funny.
little avatar pickled at random. Hey, thanks. That
You know,
looked
turn me
nice.
into a
Yeah.
PvP player.
So when it's
I'm
all
ready.
like perfect and operating, then we can blame.
Exactly.
I'm ready to get hardcore in FPS in this game now that I can actually run it. I just need the time. These last few weeks have been crazy, but we'll get back to normal.
Until then, we share a
Yeah.
little.
Hey, if you got a problem, at Luke directly.
Yeah.
Pickled at random on
Send your
Spectrum.
letters attention to Luke
Yeah.
Presley.
Pick
Yeah, I know he's watching right now. I'm sorry, Luke.
your target.
Sorry. What else is in 318 that you guys worked on?
The Horizon missions. The go to an Horizon island and kill people. I saw a couple of people.
I
playing.
haven't gotten to. I need to get back into that. I think I'm waiting for Open PTU to get a larger squad, but I haven't ranked up in reputation on the Orison missions much. Has anybody gotten to see if they're actually that challenging, or if they're just mainly still like is it mainly still like the bunkers just in Orison?
Citizen Kate did a video on it. That was very
It's time to
very
have
fun
a
to
smoke.
watch
You were good,
because,
Jack.
there was this odd thing where she was playing it and
Like I said, I get where you're coming from.
it was really good. So the AI was acting how they was meant to, and they was snapping. And it got to the point where in the video, I think she said, "I need to put a silencer on because I keep just getting annihilated from miles away," which was very nice. It's a first step to sort of branching out sort of those missions into new locations.
And making more use out of it because we
Yes.
built those platforms for the Siege of Horizon dynamic event.
AI are more responsive, but is the dynamic of the mission different? Like, are we fighting? When I went and did it, I was just fighting through a building, and what I was really hoping for with Orison was an outdoor FPS mission. We don't have any outdoor urban gameplay, and I thought that would have been really cool if it was just clearing a city block, kind of like Siege of Orison is. But I'm wondering if it's just the buildings like I had, or if they're just some stuff I haven't seen yet.
But when the dynamic event is not running, you had this location, this beautiful,
completely
gorgeous,
free.
well-crafted
Yes.
location that wasn't doing anything. So it's double dipping where possible is a hallmark of all video game development.
Yeah.
It's if you can build something for one use, good. If you can build it for 3 uses, amazing.
Yeah.
So there's new.
What if you build it for no uses? Let's have a candid discussion about the cargo decks, shall we? No, I'm kidding. I think we've beaten that one to death.
Platform missions in 318.
Prison.
What? Oh yeah.
Prison stuff and the jump town changes, both done by our other designer Max. So he made the prison mission. He's made it so there's AI wandering about. You kill them, you can loot them, you can then sell the loot to the contraband kiosk. We actually recently made a change where we was having a problem where people had to go to this one little area to sell the contraband and sell all the minables, and then you had some of the bad players we talked about stood there waiting.
Shout out to
and
Salty
just,
Mike.
There you go. Just hammering
Bad people murdering bad people.
Just call him out.
like killing people. So what we
You see Jared's face?
just hammering
Bad people
people.
murdering.
I love his
bad
facial
people.
expressions.
Just like killing people. So what we did was we was like, right, let's move the mining kiosk to 3 different locations to give those other people a bit of a chance and sort of spread it out a bit more. So we implemented that. And then the other thing Max did was the Jump Town changes. We added 2 item dispensers into Jump Town. So there is now more boxes that you can get. And we also snazzed up the location with the help of the art team and the locations team, added a little bit more so it was less of a one entry sort of thing because that's a choke point. We wanted to add a few more ways of getting in and out, and we've seen some amazing videos on that as well. love watching all of them. Citizen Kate again, Bed Bananas did a good one.
Yes.
Yeah, I bet Mike had a blast of this one.
Two entire quarters of content on 318. I've seen it all.
Okay.
Get the patch out. What else is in 318?
Oh my god.
That you guys worked on.
Well,
that you guys
no, I
worked
mean, I've been working on Xenothreat, trying to get that up to speed with 318. It's a lot in 318. I mean, persistence is the big one, the big fundamental change. So, you know,
Xenothreat had been painful in 318.
making a dynamic event work in those situations, it's a lot to do.
I imagine just little things like now it tracks mission progress, and that part in the Mobigus where it actually says you've actually done the missions. I've seen people on PTU. It's like, oh, I logged out. I did a mission like a week ago, and I came back, and it was still listed there.
It knows what we've done?
Yeah, well, mission persistence isn't something that we have right now
No.
properly
Just like we just lit a match and he poured water on it immediately.
in 318. We will need to. I mean, I'm just stepping you back
light.
here. Well, it's more that persistence is. It's just that so much has changed since Xenothreat was last run.
Right.
It touches every system. Every system has persistence in it or not in it or whatever amounts of in it.
I might be wrong, but wasn't there a bug like previously because of persistence where if the javelin was destroyed, its records stay there, and then the other javelin was trying to come in?
Right.
I don't know. I think that sounds
No,
like a bug we
I
haven't
saw
seen.
that. No,
Oh,
I saw that.
Yeah,
The javelin
yeah.
stayed, and then the next javelin came
And
in.
then came in like
Parents,
we
yeah.
have that with we had
love
that with
that.
the AI reinforcements that land. They land if you blow that ship up, the other one just like, well, I'm still gonna try land there even though you still exist, and yeah, it's a fun thing.
Sharkbite, good morning to you. How you doing? Midnight Madman, nothing on land claiming. We do know, if you haven't been around for a little while, we do know that like these sorts of towns and outposts are starting to be fleshed out right now for AI, but definitely with the idea that we will be making them ourselves in the future. So this could be little homes like this. This could be like mining outposts like this. And it could be full-on towns like this. So they haven't talked about land claiming, but we are starting to get ideas of base building in the distant future.
Things of battle.
No, we will be seeing the changes mandated by persistence for the next year, for the next 2 years. It's all these things. Everything up to this point was made for the game in a certain state, and now with persistence, there's changes to the AI.
You know, speaking of earthquakes, we've had a couple other earthquakes in the same area the one hit last week, over the last week or so, aftershocks. It's not, I can't even imagine the trauma.
Like, hey, if there's already a crashed ship there, you know, because it didn't have to worry about that before.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, maybe we don't land there. Landing there is a bad thing.
It's also hard. It's also quite challenging to work on a game that has persistence turned on by default, because what we do is we run servers locally and test our stuff. But if you shut that server down, it persists. So when you run your server from nowhere, it's still there, and all the stuff is exactly as you left it. Sometimes that's annoying because you're looking for a fresh state, but it isn't. That's persistence. And so you're like, this is like making games again. I've never made a game where I have to worry about persisting things from my previous run. You really do have to think in a new way to work on that situation.
That's a great point. I hadn't considered that. There's a lot of folks have like a second computer under their desk and whatever where they run local servers, you know, because they're working on a thing. And for every time up until now, you could just count every time you loaded in, everything was reset to 0. You could just start from fresh. But now it's like, oh, where did I leave this with this last test?
Also, when you're fixing bugs, you have to be really mindful of that, because you're thinking, okay, is this bug still here because it's persisted? Because I had an issue with that.
Right.
I was setting up some elevators, and it was there, and the bug was there. I fixed it, and then I ran the server again, and the entity had changed. I fixed it, except it persisted in the broken state. So I was like, okay, fine. Okay, so this is only a bug in this moment. So if I, purge the lot, go again, it really is fixed. But it's challenging, but it's kind of fun.
It also messes with our debug tools. Like, so you know,
These are all good things, by the way.
Yeah, these are all
It's good. It's good. Persistence is good. We're just telling you that this is just a war
Views and
story.
opinions of Bedfellow do not represent those of Cloud Imperium Games, Farmer Space Industries, or its subsidiaries.
Positive war story. So
Yeah.
in the debug thing, when we're playing, like, so I'm testing a UGF mission, or I'm waiting for the shuttle because I'm testing something, and I'm stood there, and then like Lars is like, hey, you got a second? Or Jane's like, you got a second? And I go over to them. And then I come back, and I haven't turned God mode on, which will stop me from dying. And all of a sudden, my
Not good.
yeah, exactly, I'm terrible.
good.
My food and my hydration levels are gone to 0. So my guy is having the worst time of his life. He can't see anything. I can't hit.
I don't think it's a projector just because of the way it animates,
God mode, and then I do
or it's a very good projector.
time afterwards when I log in, my guy is still dying of hydration permanently until I actually purge the server and restart. So I'm stuck in that hellscape of
So basically, your guy is 44 years old.
yeah. It's like,
I think the funniest thing that happened to me was during the time trials prototyping.
It just stares at the camera. Jared, Jack, I can tell you with some level of confidence that that it was not 7 years of just writing code. They made a pretty significant switch in how server meshing would work around 2019-ish when they introduced the replication layer. So it really was more 4 to 5 years of working on both the concept and the ideas, and probably even less time than that actually working on the code itself. But I've personally seen the concept that the replication layer of server meshing came from. I've talked to a couple of the people who are working on that stuff. They are of the understanding that it will help with being able to load this stuff. And from everybody I've talked to who does, you know, data collection and storage on like financial sites and places where this kind of stuff is more common, people seem to are saying that it's feasible, it's doable. They're close, they're confident that it's going to work. Otherwise we would see the scope change. There's always a chance it won't work. But people are pretty confident that the concept is sound. And we've seen it work in things like Scavengers, Dual Universe, and a couple other games. Trying to put server mesh on a VM network, but I think it's more hardware based. I don't know it that deep. I don't know about all that stuff.
I think the funniest thing that happened to me
Jared and his fourth wall. Is there an easy mode so you don't have to worry about pooping or eating? Yeah, you just kind of go ahead and poop and eat wherever you want. You can even recycle somehow. It's the future. They figured it out. What does server meshing do? To put it short, it splits up. Hold on. On the music here. I say short, but I'm about to get into a little detail here. To put it short, it splits up a physical space into several virtual loading areas. So if you had a theme park that you went to, and there were 1,000 people in that theme park, all controlled by a server, instead of having one server per 1,000 people, you could have 3 servers doing 333 people. That way, each of those servers doesn't have to simulate everything. They just have to simulate a certain place. The data is stored elsewhere, so it doesn't matter. Putting this graphically, this is going to be kind of confusing. But you can see there is this isn't even the right one. Imagine each of these different colored bubbles is a server, and they're all simulating stuff separately. That's server meshing, and you can pass the information between the servers so that it's all up in sync. That's a really basic kind of explanation. Will this game feature persistent poop? They're working on the game loop for it. I think they still need to work on Gen 12 rendering to make sure that poop shaders are loading. PES, the way they want it to be, won't work. No matter how many servers you put on it, it's a lot of data to remember. That's a bold claim. You're going against the entirety of the company on that one. PS is already working. They said it's scalable. We shall see. It is a lot, Jeremy. Server meshing is a pretty complex kind of thing. I have a video on the channel if you want to check it out, but overall it's just supposed to allow for the game to be a lot bigger. Like, you run into these problems where games want to keep putting more and more people into a game space, but the servers can only handle so much. So instead of putting all those people into that space, you kind of throw a bunch of servers at that space and say, hey, handle some of the people in that group so they can all see each other without actually having to create the heavy load on the game. Like it or not, you must admit the Microsoft model works. Flight Simulator have an open platform where everyone can make content. Players get a lot more great content, and in the end, Microsoft sees who delivers great content fast and give them a job. SC as a platform is still far from being able to do that. Nobody else can explain server meshing better than Tony Z. YouTube remembers all of our comments well enough. YouTube persistence.
It was during time trials prototyping, because of
Did my
persistence
chat
and
just
I
die
didn't,
again?
You know, realize
No,
what
I
it was going to
freaking
do.
hate this service.
I'd logged out prior, like mid-race, you know, went away for my lunch. I came back to record a video for an internal review kind of thing. Thought I was doing really good in this race. I was getting on time for the platinum. And then all of a sudden, my wreckage was just at the end of the race, and I just smashed straight into myself, which, you know, ended my race prematurely.
That wreck from the previous
Yeah.
On Korea, we actually were debugging it, and all of a sudden we fly in, and there's 3 of the chief of security. They're super bosses. They're super tanky. So I come in there with a pistol just to test something, and there's 3 of them's like, there he is, and I just got lit up instantly. It's like,
Dystrophic, thank you for the sub. Appreciate you 5 months hanging out here. Thank you so much for the support.
that's a problem.
Zezer in chat is like, I wonder who Jared was referring to. I was referring to me. I'm the one that's constantly dehydrated and exhausted. All right, so we've only got a few minutes left. Let's talk about plans for the future. I want specific dates.
Oh, no.
And
No specific.
what's next for the mission feature? We know investigations are in the mix.
Yes.
Somewhere developing investigations. Let's just follow up on that real quick. How's that going?
Yeah, it's going well. We're still at the stage where we're working very closely with narrative, because they might be making a story and it might have a certain scenario in it that I've not considered on the system side that I have to like go reconsider. For example, one of the stories that Adam, one of the narrative people, had made up. He just added a little note is like set dressing. There are 2 like cocktail glasses on the side of the pool, and I'm like, I didn't think about spawning set dressing. I should probably spawn set dressing. So then I have to update the thing, but that's all a part of the iteration. That's why it's good to get the stories first, because then I know, right, my system will achieve everything here. So yeah, investigation's going well.
Cool. What else are you guys working on?
Salvage missions at the moment.
Salvage missions.
So yeah, we wanted a way to kind of show the new salvage mechanic. So yeah, I'm currently working on some different legalities and versions.
Go over the 3 of them.
Sure. So there's a legal version where we have a new company that's being made. I'm not sure if I can call it. It's called Adagio, and they're literally just salvage contracts. So they have a bunch of salvage, and they sell you the rights to a piece of salvage. Like, you pay us like X amount of credits or UEC, and then like that's like, here's your lot number. You can go get it there, and then you fly over, and then it's yours to keep. And it's kind of in the safe area of this point, like a Lagrange point, where they kind of towed it there. And then there's the illegal version where basically an illegal corporation, new one called the Tar Pits. They're like, well, they hear about salvage, and they're like, well, you can go there, but we know that security forces are going there to investigate what happened. You have an hour. Good luck. And then you basically have to race there, and once you're there, like, you have an hour. You have a timer on screen, and if you're staying there too long, well, then all of a sudden, like, you know, fighters come in, or like other investigative forces, and if you're in a vulture, for example, well, is not really good at combat. And we're actually trying to get a mission giver, which I won't spoil who it is, so have fun trying to discover that. But a new mission giver, we're gonna give him or her some love.
How do we guess if it's new?
And they're gonna actually do a kind of a mini rush where it's like, well, there's been a massive battle somewhere in the middle of space. There's a lot of money to be made, but it's
Robert, thank you so much for the $10 super chat. Also, thanks for the kind words. Appreciate the support, buddy. Glad you enjoy these.
an open contract. So here you go, but you might find people, and then we're really trying to have emergent gameplay, community focus. So it could be 3 vultures that are like all happily salvaging away, and then an org is like, yeah, this is our salvage now. They come in with like a reclaimer and like a whole combat suite. It's like, okay, kids, move aside. This is ours now.
Every time there's a question about a mystery mission giver, chat goes, Tessa! Tessa's coming back.
Who's Tessa?
It's not Tessa. These guys don't know who Tessa is.
Tessa?
That predates these guys.
Not true.
I wasn't even
Doesn't
born.
make
No,
sense.
Ed knows who.
Ed knows.
Ed knows who Tessa is, but it's not Tessa. They've got a thing for her. Her time will come eventually. It's actually 3 picos in a trench coat. So I'll spoil it.
Stacked onto
That's a cool mission giver. That would be pretty fun. I'd love the story behind that.
What about you, James? What's in your future?
I think at the moment mine's top secret until it gets a bit of a director sign off. But I'm still keeping an eye on time trials as well. The big thing for us at the moment is there's a lot of data coming in for our analytics. So everyone keep playing them because we need that data. We really need that data.
I want to know what he's working on.
So we can make the platinums harder. We can see if people are crashing. We can, we get all kinds of data from that and which is the most popular ships. That all leads us into, helping us with our design decisions down the line. But that's what I'm maintaining at the minute.
Yep.
Yeah, what you, Ed?
Well, I'm allowed to talk about that we have.
I want to know what that guy's working on. What's top secret right now?
We have.
I wonder if it's cargo missions.
We have a planned a new dynamic event, which will be like classic racing. So it'll be like lap-based racing, and it'll be multiplayer. So time trials is single you against the clock, whereas this would be like people together racing together.
A racing dynamic event.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And the plan is to have we'd have maybe 2 new ship tracks and maybe a ground race in there as a mix, and then we'd also limit it so that you'd have only a specific ships or ship would be allowed to race on the race day. Yeah, and
You
what
guys are
else?
also working on.
Yeah,
There's
lots.
mining missions to go along with
Yes.
the salvage missions.
The mining missions are what we're calling resource rush. Essentially, once again, we give you you're buying the rights to a location that's far out, and there's going to be like an asteroid cluster gas cloud thingy, and we spawn a bunch of minables in there, and essentially what it is that each player can buy the rights to go there, and then they have a finite amount of spawned resources that they have to mine. Now, we make the contract open, so it could be Salty Mike, but I don't think he'll last long. It could be Burks going in and everyone fighting.
God, dude.
It's just really
just rude.
bad, isn't he?
He's terrible.
He's so
I don't
bad.
know why he still plays the game, but
That's fair. I get that.
I've got no clue.
There's absolutely no reason for us to pick on Salty Mike today. I mean, after all, he's a CIG shill, and
Also-
we secretly pay him under the table.
Dude, I've heard that. Salty gets paid. Yeah, no. Please don't go with that. It's not actually true.
The words
Pay him for
are-
what
I
he
have
can't
ruined
play
his
the
life
game.
today. I'm so sorry, Salty
Can't even joke about that because some people will believe it.
Mike. And so the mining missions are, also we talked about, making multiple uses of things. Obviously, a lot of the same salvage kind of
What's up, Half-Life Abyssal?
underlying tech for that stuff. And then in the monthly report,
Oh yeah, I know they chill in this chat. Like they're pretty cool together.
researching
I've seen Elliot in there a couple times.
missions.
It's not really missions. It's system. It's
Yeah.
like, it's probably what everyone's sort of been clamoring for. It's not mission. It's the right to sort of defend your ship,
There's another
which is
thing
probably
that
what
NFT
everyone really wants, right?
Yeah.
They want to be able to stand their ground in their ship. That's what that is.
and not get a crime stat.
And not to get a crime stat. That's
Wait, what is this?
what sort of been clamoring for. It's not missions.
Defend your ship.
Oh yeah.
Missions.
It's not really missions. It's system. It's
Yeah.
like, it's probably what everyone's sort of been clamoring for. It's not mission. It's the right to sort of defend your ship,
There's another
which is
thing
probably
that
what
NFT
everyone really wants, right?
Yeah.
They want to be able to stand their ground in their ship. That's what that is.
And not get a crime stat.
And not to get a crime stat.
So
That's
it's not
what
a mission
Defense of Europe.
goes into us building other stuff. We don't just make missions.
Absolutely.
Me, Ed, and Luke are also looking at a system and trying to improve the lore aspect of that someone might not have the right to defend the ship from an intruder or someone who's on board. It's like, well, I can't legally kill him because he's not got a crime stat, but it's like, you've not given permission to be there. So it's systems like that, and we work on a lot of those as well.
That sounds like it could be related to giving roles for resource management when you're like basically saying who can access what on your ship. Sounds like a tie-in.
We're always reading like Spectrum. I'm on it like every night, which is terrible, really bad.
Yeah, that
But
can't
I
be good
read
for your
all the
health.
threads on there, and anything.
Spectrum?
Yeah, on Spectrum. Yeah.
which terror?
Yeah, and Reddit and the other ones. And I'm always like zeroing on the ones that that things we own, like hostility and law, and then we're always just picking them up and sending them in, and the next day.
Video is frozen?
QA are just going through everything we found, and we're just always trying to improve those systems and make them better.
No, I'm actually really glad you said there's always this persistent kind of narrative out there that, oh, they only listen to the streamers, or we've thrown a lot of shade
Okay,
at Salty.
thank you, guys.
We only listen to the streamers or the YouTubers or whatnot. So it's heartening.
Morphologist is single-handedly changing the game.
Individual devs who are still going to the internal forums and reading the things that people are posting.
It's really interesting. I love reading the forums. I mean, there's a lot. There's everyone's got a voice there, and I can't respond to everything. In fact, I do respond very occasionally, but I don't because it's not in my wheelhouse. I'm not the authority on it. That sort of reason is why I can't respond. Even if I am sort of the authority, I'm not really sure what we're going to do, so I can't really answer it.
And we
but
talked
I can
about
still
how
read it.
you don't always have the time to write your documentation. The time spent writing
This
replies
is outside.
time
That's
not.
outside of my work hours. That's stuff I do in my own.
Sometimes I'm sat at home at the work desk eating my lunch. Probably shouldn't be at my desk eating my lunch on lunch, but I'm scouring through Reddit myself and I'm just typing in race, and then if you said
like,
something that has the word race in your
Sir, you can't do that. That's going to get the company in trouble. Don't tell them you're working at lunch. They'll call us.
comment, I have probably read it in the last month.
need to
It's the
set-
good and the bad, you
You
got to
set proper boundaries, work-life balance.
I need to set a little alarm.
I
that says
just-
stop reading.
Talk about Luke. I'd like to see this mentioned in his quarterly review.
It's just too interesting, though.
You get very personal about it. I remember I was watching a couple of streamers over Christmas Eve, playing Korea, and something broke, so I just remoted into work on Christmas Eve and was like, I'm gonna fix this.
Which is super hypocritical because when I tried to do it, it's like I was looking, he's like, it's your holiday, get the hell
I
out of here.
can
I'm
be a
like,
hypocrite. I
"But
don't
you're
want all
logging
of
in."
them to do it, so I'm like, you know what, lads, have a rest. I'll do it.
I'm still spying on all the Siege stuff, and I'm not even working on that anymore. I just want to see what people's feedback are.
So if we learned anything this week, it's that game devs have poor work-life balance and
It's because we
fail to
either
draw
play
boundaries.
them,
Makes sense.
Or we build them, or we watch them.
No, it's heartening to hear that you're so dedicated. That sounded like one of those E3 things. Guys, thank you so much for taking the
honoured to
time.
be here.
I'm honored
it was a
Honoured
pleasure
and
to be on.
privileged
Yeah.
to have you on the show.
Speak to all of you.
I just got to ask who's on your water bottle, real quick. Give him a shout
Oh,
out.
that's one of our QA,
Hold it up.
JV. So
Here, give me the water bottle.
Take it up to the camera.
no, it's,
Tom, do we have my close-up?
we
do we have my close-up?
our embedded QA have
There we
this
go.
kind of thing where they kind of keep screenshotting people during Microsoft Teams meetings, and one of our QA started editing that, and the emote is from a streamer I really
Couldn't
enjoy.
be here, but he's on your
He's there now.
All right, that's Elliot, Lars, Ed, and James.
All right, we're going to skip commercials.
Sorry, I just
In the name
wanted
of
to
time.
promote the event, so I took the only trailer I could find online.
Who else do we have to talk
There
about?
you go. Before we get to our next guest, I want to start. I want to do a thing. I get messages on Spectrum and Twitter. People are always asking about the
While we're getting started
the
this,
random stuff that are around.
I will
us that
be
make
right
up our
back,
set.
folks.
I want to take a minute to showcase something that you may not otherwise have noticed or whatnot each week. This week, I want to talk to you about this. Do we have my close-up? This is Hunter, the Star Citizen comic by Adrian Atisor. This is actually a fully illustrated comic set in the Star Citizen universe. It's written and drawn by one of the OG Star Citizen backers, a guy named Adrian Atisor. This was produced in conjunction with Crash Core, a lovely org out of Germany. Shout out to Crash Core. And it was originally printed up and given away at our Gamescom 2015 event. You can see the Cologne Cathedral here depicted in the futuristic year of 2945. So these are very limited. You can't get them anymore. I'm amazed mine still survives, but it's very close to my heart. And one of the first things I got to really put in motion here when I got hired into Star Citizen. So shout out to 80 if you're watching. I haven't talked to you in a while. All right. Joining us on the show now, in the back half of the show, we like to, we do all the information and the business in the front, and then we have the party in the back. We're essentially the mullet of Star Citizen. Joining us for the mullet is Robbie Elms. Say hi, Robbie.
Hey, everyone.
And Nick Elms, no relation.
No relation at all. No association.
The Elmses.
So, Robbie.
How was the chair stream? Pretty good? Pretty solid?
Who are you, and what do you do for CIG?
Well, I'm Nick Helms. I am a creative director now responsible for the flight side of Squadron 42. And
I'm Robbie Elms. I'm the lead designer on Squadron 42, specifically the flight sections.
Gotcha. Now, this is where I do the biggest disclaimer I'm going to do. We are not talking about Squadron 42 today.
Then why am I here? Is there any info that comes out in this part, or is it kind of just chatting about unrelated stuff?
Sworn to secrecy.
Hey, quiet from the peanut gallery. There's no conversation about Squadron 42. That's not what we're here about. If you're upset, send your letters to Salty Mike. He's somewhere in Florida.
Oh my gosh.
You were on the show. You were on the show this week because you're folks that we don't get to see a lot of, to talk a lot of, but. You have something unique amongst most people in CIG. You are actually father and son.
Oh, that's cool.
yeah, we are indeed.
Yeah.
In fact, we've started to work together probably, was it 2011 or something like that?
Yeah, 2010,
So
2011.
been working together.
This isn't the episode with Jared and the whiteboard. This is last week's episode, or 2 weeks ago. That was last week's episode.
For 12, 13 years now.
Mainly background of these two? Okay.
I'm going to ask
We'll
Robbie
listen.
this first. How is that? Are you okay?
The worst critic. The worst. No, it's good. It's frustrating at times, of course. It managed to turn me back into a teenager with a lot of the feedback, but little strops every now and then.
Yeah.
But I see it's from a good place.
And Nick, how did you? Was it you who brought Robbie in? Did Robbie bring you in? Who got here first?
I got here first. I was working with Robbie, sort of going back to TT when we were doing the Lego games and things. Yeah. And I
Take
thought,
Two?
Right, why have a dog and bark yourself?
It's always interesting to hear the studios that people are coming from to work on Star Citizen. Some big names.
I'll bring him across here.
Well, I remember there was like no hope for me. As like when I think I was 4, you got me a Sega Mega Drive.
Yeah.
It's like here's X-Men, here's Street Fighter, get good, and just no hope from there onwards. I got hooked on games, and it's
That
all
was
I
my
wanted to do.
excuse for research though when you were a kid. I used to
it,
come
yeah.
in, the Nintendo 64, play GoldenEye.
Well, that's it.
And,
That was my
Tomb Raider.
birthday present, and I woke up to him playing GoldenEye, and he's like a Bill Murray moment, like, no one will believe you, kind of.
Tell your mum. It's research.
Yeah. It's a meme. We're not gonna, this isn't a GoldenEye promotion thing, but it just had its remaster released on consoles. But it's a meme online about that pause music. But that really was, that pause music it went harder than it had any right to.
Yeah, exactly.
I have
I've
I have many strong
I actually don't
memories.
remember. Hold on, can I look that up real quick? I don't remember what that was. GoldenEye 64 pause menu. I think I actually have some recollection of that.
Bill Murray moment, like.
Ah, yes, that's right. This was such cool music. Oh, and they had the dun 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 dun. Yeah, this is great. Oh, Jared is spot on with that. Yeah, that was good music.
No one will believe you, kind of.
Tell your mum. It's research.
Yeah. It's a meme. We're not gonna, this isn't a GoldenEye promotion thing, but it just had its remaster released on consoles. But it's a meme online about that.
Exactly.
I have
It was a
many
fantastic
strong
game at the
memories.
time.
The watch, and it says drop in.
Yeah, set to that pause music. So that's how that's where you got your kind of start and inspiration in gaming. Nick, how did you, of everything that you could do with your life?
Well, it started off working with Chris. We were kind of sort of just finishing school and just playing around with graphics on the BBC Micro. And he was doing his games, Strikers Run and Match Day, and kind of said to Phil and I, because we all like doing art. We all did art at school. He said, "Come, draw some pixels. Let's do some stuff on here." So we did that. All of a sudden, he's driving around in a really flashy car. And Phil and I looking at each other, going, "What's happened here?" And he's like,
Uh-oh, it's the yacht.
"Stole this game." And he's like, "Yes, what did this?" And he's minted. So then we sort of cottoned on to this, and you know, sort of Chris hung around for a bit, and then he went to Origin, and you know, obviously the rest is history.
So you've been with Chris for a long time then.
Yeah, well, I went to training. I was sort of on the tech side, and I was training companies. I was one of the sort of only authorized Autodesk trainers of 3D Studio. So I was going around to games companies in the area, training their staff how to use 3D Studio. One of them was like a company called Rowan Software, which did a lot of flight simulator games. So I was teaching them how to build planes, and I kind of got, well, I can do this. I can do this for a living. So Aaron came back to the UK, set up a studio for EA, and pulled a load of us in, and that was me in the games industry from there on.
So that's you in the games industry, but you mentioned Chris and you in schooling. Your association with Chris goes far back. Now this okay. We have to tread a little lightly because we forgot to tell Chris.
See you later, Ace.
It's going to be on the show today.
Chris,
So I'm gonna try to thread a needle here because I want to know about your. I want to know about your early associations here. How far does your relationship with Chris go back?
I mean, we went to primary school together.
Wow.
Goes back a long way.
Holy crap.
But yeah, I mean, I'm glad you gave me a heads up.
How
on
is that? Like, how? You have, I feel like you got to be good friends to be in touch with somebody you went to primary school with that long after. It's not like you just don't happen to just go to the same schools, right? That's pretty wild.
Because, you know, being put on the spot with, you know, tell me a story about Chris, I think could have ended in career suicide for me.
I would never do such a thing. Tell me a story about Chris.
One that hopefully won't get me fired, and I think, you know, anyone who's obviously seen Chris will probably, you know, attest to it's fairly accurate. It's, go back to when we were like sort of 15 or 16 and we used to play D&D. Chris kind of got bored with the wooden delivery from the DMs. You know, you'd be in a room and somebody drove in on. He's like, you know, this needs more immersion, needs spicing up. So we got this idea to bring his friends in to do voices for the creatures. You know, writing a script. He's getting sounds like rain sounds and stuff, or wind sounds in the background, and he's having us all doing these crazy, like, you know, orc voices or dragon voices and things like that to play as a tape recorder while he's DMing.
Right, this is long before
The early days of immersion.
the internet, and you know, there's all kinds of resources for that now. But
yeah, this is like, I don't say how far back it is. Probably about 40 years back.
Chris is like a movie director stuck in a game developer's body, I swear.
So I'm going to keep pushing. What kind of DM was Chris?
It was fantastic DM, but the thing is, I think it only went for about 3 sessions because it was so work intensive. You know, like I said before, we were all quite good artists at school, so we're even drawing, you know, concept art for environments and things like that, just to sort of like have the maximum amount of immersion for this game. But yeah, I think we got about 3 sessions in.
Same with Hideo.
This is too much work. It's like a job. We're only at 15. But yeah, it was an experience. I think everyone who played those campaigns, you know, even for 3 sessions would remember it. Certainly Aaron and my younger brother Simon, who's the financial...
Yeah, I was going to say, you brought Simon into this, so let's...
Yeah, games definitely come off harder to make.
It's not just Robbie and Nick who work here at CIG. Simon is also a member of the team here.
Yes, he's
Who's that, grandson?
financial director.
Were you right, El?
On the floor.
Yeah. Well, I find I only run into Simon when I've done something expensive and bad.
Yep.
You know, my only interaction with Simon has to come with, like, you're building a spaceship?
Yeah.
I'm like, hi, Simon. Yes, we're building a spaceship. Really? I'm like, yeah.
I feel I'm partly responsible for that as well, because I used to sort of steal his pocket money when he was a kid, so I think that drove him into accountancy. It was the only career he could go for.
Are there any other Elms this year I don't know about?
Well, Jamie was here for a while.
My younger brother was QA for a summer, wasn't he? Before we exiled him to Australia.
And New Zealand.
Quitter.
He's been in New Zealand for the last 5 years.
Didn't cut it.
So you're here. Yeah, you're here. We talked a little bit about your history with Chris. Let's talk about you've now been here since the UK studio opened.
10 years nearly.
9 months. No, 9 years this month.
Yeah, you just had your 9-year anniversary. Yeah.
Yeah. What are your again?
From what I've heard, that is far above the average.
I've got this. You can't see it, but I've got the angel and the devil on the shoulders here, and there are things I want to ask and things I want to push for, and just this yelling in my ear, and I'm like, no, you need this place. You just moved to the other side of the world. Stay employed. When I ask what's your favorite,
I wonder like what these guys know. Between the two of them, how much of Squadron 42 could they spill on this show, you know?
favorite story from your time here? You've been here 10, you've been here 9. What's the first thing that comes to mind? It doesn't necessarily have to be your favorite, but when I ask that question, what was that first story that just popped into your head?
I think for me is, because we have essentially here from the ground up, near enough, is when we first got, and this is not just even squadron related, when we first got quantum travel working, and it's like, oh my God, we can achieve this kind of moment of like, oh, the scale of what we're going at. That was like when the penny dropped for me, is like, we can do this, it's going to be great. That's probably my story.
Yeah, I'm might sort of going back to you know, when we first started to get some of the rushes in from the you know, the actors and the team that Chris assembled was just mind blowing, and seeing that coming in, and then seeing the amount of it that was coming in and going, oh my God, this is going to be huge. It's like hours and hours of it.
Yeah,
it's so impressive.
Those two moments, I actually have stories about both those two moments. When Quantum was first introduced, and then we in the testing, somebody had a ship inside the other ship. I can't remember what the ship it was at this point, and somebody just got the idea. What happens if we try to leave in the middle of Quantum? And like everybody around was like, we have no idea. It's like we don't know what's going to happen. And we got in and disembarked from the ship in the first Quantum, and that ship stayed in Quantum and was flying with it. And it's like, holy cow! And it's just you build these systemic you know, things, and there's what they're intended to do, and then there's what you discover they can do along the way, and it's a huge part of game development.
Accidents.
That was a huge moment for me. And then you talk about the performances in Squadron 42. A moment I will never forget is in the LA studio when we watched the first assembly of the Bishop's Senate speech before CitizenCon 2015. It was all still black and white box, and
What a painful, painful speech. Oh my gosh. That speech created the slogan that haunted Squadron 42 for the rest of its days. Answer the call. Memories.
barely animated. All you really had to go on was Jeff Zanelli's music and Gary Oldman's performance. The Vandal, and I just remember seeing like the hair start going up on the and there's a. I remember there's a code to that story. I definitely can't tell, but yeah, just I will always remember that. Like I've got it right now. Actually, just going back to that moment. Stuff.
When Hannes' team got hold of it as well, you know, they really did it justice. It's,
yeah. And before anybody calls me a liar, there's not a Squadron 42 story that is a watching a video story. So I mean, that's pretty much it. We're actually pretty much out of time. Nick, Robbie, thank you for hanging out with us. Is there anything, you don't get a whole lot of opportunities to talk to the community, interact with the community, because you're on the you're hidden.
They're on the side that we don't get to hear about, except for monthly reports.
In the Squadron 42 dungeon on the 8th floor. Is there anything just about your experience in CIG? You've been to Citizens Cons before. You've been to Bar Citizens. Is there anything you want to tell the community while you have a moment here?
We're just so grateful for the support. You know, what you guys do for us is it's amazing.
I think Salty Mike's had a bit of a rough time.
Yeah, you've been a bit
paid
hard.
me a compliment once, so I've not forgotten that, Salty Mike. I've got a head of lettuce, whatever that means, but I'm going to take it as a compliment.
Lettuce is good for the soul.
I want to point out that my job is to make the shows. I host these things for like 1.5 hours every week. The other 60+ hours is done with all the things that go into me. I'm not a professional TV show host. And so the moments where I just get stuck on something, hyper focus on something, I'll just drive them into the ground. I apologize to Salty Mike and any trauma or dismay that may be caused by you being bad.
Dang, Jared.
All right, so
oh my
Citizen
God.
Live,
oh Jesus. That's not how I expected that sentence to go. Aye.
Robbie, thank you so much for taking your time to hang out with us. Folks watching, if you haven't already, be sure to check out yesterday's Inside Star Citizen with a look at the Arena Commander feature team. All kinds of stuff coming to Arena Commander. Some are in 3.18, the Dying Star fixes. The majority of what you saw is coming in a patch later this
Dude,
year.
I would laugh forever on that. Honestly, I would have that as like the start to my overall intro for the next several years. Getting roasted by Jared is a preem opportunity.
And that's going to affect all
Take
kinds
that
of
in
branch
stride.
mechanics and stuff. So we know it's coming. We just can't quite pinpoint where it is. But as soon as you know, we know, you will know. And then tune in next week. Next week is our next Journey to 4.0 special. Which we just watched. We started back at CitizenCon last year. We have lovely Ian, the art director for Star Citizen Live, presenting to you the very first look inside building interiors.
So depending on what happens this week with Star Citizen Live, maybe next week we'll look into what they did this past week. We'll catch up at some point. But these Mondays are always kind of these talking, catching up, looking at the news, looking at development sort of streams. So if you like this kind of development talk, you want to be able to ask questions and just chat with us about features, these are great streams to come to. Sometimes they are full on sort of podcast style with the community coming on and talking what they have to say. Sometimes we're going over monthly reports, and sometimes we're just doing a little catch up. So if you like them, make sure to set your schedule on Mondays and join us. But otherwise, I'm generally doing gameplay of Star Citizen, org days on Saturdays, my own days on Wednesdays, and something else on Fridays. Who knows? But I'm always here every week. If you enjoyed this stream, I'd like to thank everybody who is here, getting involved, chatting, supporting, taking shots at Salty Mike apparently. And somebody did ask if I've done ultra wide on this game. I have. I had a good 3440 by 1440 back in the day, but not anymore. But yeah, thank you everybody for coming. 07s to you all. You're great people. You're always fun to talk to. Come and hang out with. It's a joy to get to stream some Star Citizen every other day, and especially to talk. This has always been sort of how I do the YouTube content, and it's awesome that we can still do this on a live stream and people are interested. So thanks for coming, folks. 07s I see in chat. I hope you all have a great day. Get into something good today. Eat something yummy. Have a good night of sleep. Enjoy yourselves, folks. Give thanks to the sky for being there. It's pretty important, the sky. And I'll catch y'all on Wednesday. We'll get back into some gameplay, probably some 318 PTU stuff. We'll look into some more features, maybe some Orison missions or something. Either way, appreciate you all. I'm going to send you all on to Super Mac Brother, another YouTuber, but he's also streaming right now, hopefully not getting ready to get off, or else that will just be awkward. But jump in there, say hello to everybody, make some noise, drop some tomatoes. You know how it is, Twitch. Do your thing. I love you. I appreciate you. I hope to see you on Wednesday. YouTube, you as well. I've got nobody to raid for you, unfortunately, so I'll just have to drop the stream. But I appreciate you all regardless, nonetheless, all the same. Thank you, folks. Have a good day. Later.